Hello, you can hear me now. 32 seconds late. So I might be a member of the late club. That might have been the shortest break on record. New Mexico trial is coming back right now. We're just seeing a feed from the courtroom as we speak. I'm not sure if my laptop's going to survive. Some of the letters are flashing. It might be time to get a new laptop, which is unfortunate to say the least. But the timing is just awful on that. Anyway, it's been a hot minute since we've talked about Dean. It's been almost 2 minutes. I feel like that break was. All I did was dry my laptop in that time. But it's dry now. We're back. Anne, you're taking over the internet already because we had that short break. It's yours. Let's see who had it last time. Who got it last time? Anne, did you have it last time as well? Are you a two-time repeat offender? This is the normal time for that case. Let's see here. If the laptop dies at any time, I think the stream will continue. I can actually cut the laptop out of the stream, and because I'm hardware-based, not software-based, everything else will work. I just won't be able to end the stream very easily. So if it does die, I'll unplug it and move it off the desk, and we'll try to keep going because I'll still be able to see what's up on the screen. I'll still be able to follow your chat on the other computer, and I think I'll still be able to switch my computer using my iPad or switch the stream. So that's where it is. I think we'll be okay. I've got my fingers crossed. So let's see. Colette says, "Oh, rats, a good laptop is expensive too. Create a GoFundMe. I'll donate." Thanks, Colette. I think that would be on me. I'm the one who spilled the water. Welcome to my laptop world. 3 lappies in 2 years. Oh, Donna, that's bad. The G button is flashing right now. I'm not sure if you can see this. If I push it, no water comes up. I think it will most likely die a sad death. I did a quick Google search online about MacBook Pros, which is what this one is, and apparently it might work for a few days, and then it will go the way of all old laptops. So I'm trying to think if I have anything on there I need. We'll address that later. Let's see. Did we have a statement already? Let's see. Let's take camera 2 here. Did I miss anything?
I just wanted to alert the court and the state that the defense's witness, Aaron Rubinow, is here, and he will probably be coming into the courtroom to listen to some of the testimony this morning.
Okay.
So, as an expert, you should
Okay.
be entitled to do so.
Anything on the stick? No? You know, I forgot something in my office. I'll be right back. Hold on. Give me a minute or half a minute.
Judge forgot something. He'll be back. Okay, so they said somebody for the defense is here and ready to testify. Is that what I heard? Mr. Rappatorzo says, put it in rice. That's what my wife said. Can we put it in rice or something and dry it out? That has worked on some phones and some iPods in the past. Not sure if it'll work on this one. TW says, maybe I should have owned the internet for a few hours longer. That coffee cup would not have attacked your computer. Not on my watch. TW, I appreciate all you did over the weekend. Your efforts were not in vain, for sure. But Angie has the internet now. Did you hear that? Somebody just blew their nose on the live stream. Maybe they don't know that their mics are live. But that's funny. Angie, I think, if I understand correctly, currently in New Mexico, the law states that in court you still have to wear a mask. So everyone is wearing a mask. So it will all sound like this. They will all sound muffled today, unfortunately. In addition, we have one camera at the back of the courtroom that's trying to capture everything. I think they've added some audio. Oh, there went the audio feed. I think they've added some audio pickups. But Debbie, the court that is on stream, this is out of New Mexico. We're looking at New Mexico versus Dean Cummings. Dean is charged with murder. The prosecution has alleged that he shot a man that he was in an argument with. I think he was negotiating to buy the property that he shot the guy on. But that's
Okay, Loretta, you want to bring in the jury?
looks like the jury's coming in. So
Your Honor, I just had one issue.
Hold
Yeah.
on, Loretta. Hold on a second.
we had the nose
One
trumpet.
quick issue, Your Honor.
Hold on. Okay.
When I was preparing, Your Honor, I was reviewing PTIs for Ms. Dominguez, who's one of the defendant's expected witnesses. And I just want to make sure that she was reminded of the limited scope of her testimony because she sure had a lot to say. And the purpose of her testimony is very limited to that one incident of mace, and that was it.
Well, a couple of things, if you want to talk about it right now. The state has asked witnesses if Mr. Areola had a gun, if he carried a gun, so they've opened the door to that. They've asked witnesses if Mr. Areola or elicited testimony that Mr. Areola was honest, so they've opened the door to that. But I do intend to visit with her. She's coming in about half an hour early to visit with me so that I can talk to her about the scope of her testimony. But we certainly are entitled now to bring a couple of other things out, excuse me, based on the state's questioning and the
She's
evidence
already ready to fight.
that has come out.
Laura, can I respond to the one about the honesty? As
Okay, you know,
recall-
we're not going to go into the character, his characters to truthfulness.
But we already have.
But, Your Honor, as you recall at the bench, when Ms. Moss brought it up, I said, I didn't elicit that. I will lead her so she doesn't go into that. And
But she brought it out.
If the court feels the door has opened, then I'm going to pursue it further with this witness and other witnesses. And I wasn't allowed to do that.
Okay, we're not going to get into the issue of character for truthfulness. Okay, but visit with her before. She's not going to come in right away, right?
Oh, no,
Okay.
she's not coming till the afternoon,
Yeah, okay.
but obviously they've asked whether or not he had any guns. She can comment on that. I didn't make the state ask that question. They asked it, so now I get to follow up with my witnesses on it.
But not, we're not going to get, we'll discuss this more, but right now I'm telling you, we're not going to get into the issue of his character for truthfulness.
Sure, I understand.
All right.
I've heard you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bring him in, Loretta.
Bring him in. Bring in the jury. Bring him in. Herd them in like cattle. Okay, so the defense already seems on the ball. Are they going to recall that real estate agent? I don't know. We'll hear who they call. Was the real estate agent on both lists? Yeah, Rice cannot get under the keyboard, Mr. Rapporteur. So right now the G button is flashing, the L button, H now is flashing. Yeah, I think I might be in trouble. This laptop may not survive this stream. But oh well. Let's see. Mr. Rapporteur, so yeah, what do we do in this situation where the lawyer is polite? I'm so used to Brooks objecting to everything the judge
Good
decides.
morning, you may be seated.
Okay, we've got some audio problems.
Okay, defense, you may call your first witness.
you. The defense calls Dean Cummings to the stand.
Mr. Cummings, come up here.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They called Dean. First thing. I thought for sure they would not do this.
You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give the people in the Fairfield law.
I wonder if they're going to limit the testimony to very specific things, because anything they open the door to, the state can cross on. Yeah, first home run, right? Wow, first. This was unbelievable. I thought there was no way this would happen. Oh my goodness. Miss Hell, thank you. Appreciate it.
You proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you need that on yet or not?
Not quite yet, but I will soon.
So the lawyer that's questioning him is good, but she's not the bulldog that
Good morning, sir.
that we'll see.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Dean Cummings.
And how old are you?
I'm 57.
And do you have any children?
I have 3 beautiful kids.
How old are they?
They're 9, 17, and 19.
And where are you from?
I'm from Alaska, Valdez, Alaska.
And did you grow up in Alaska?
I grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico,
How long did you live in New Mexico for?
until I was 23, 24 years old.
Okay. And where did you move to after you left New Mexico?
I moved to Valdez, Alaska.
And what were you doing in Valdez,
Okay, well,
Alaska?
I ran a heli skiing business, a guide service.
While they're talking about
and what
this,
does that mean for
what
those
surprises
of us
me
that
about
aren't
this
really
is
into
Dean
I,
has
I offered a trip
some sort of
after skiing
out there ideas about conspiracies, about 5G, nanobots, people trying to control us over Bluetooth, some crazy stuff. I thought for sure they would not call him, for sure, that they wouldn't bring him on the stand, because they didn't need to. The state had not proved anything. But as he's talking about his background, how he started a company up in Alaska doing heli-skiing and stuff like that, I'm blown away that it's just right out of the gates they called him.
I've been a
Let's
skier my
see
whole
what he
life.
wants to talk
My
about,
dad
what they're going to
taught me.
question him on.
It's in kindergarten, and I went on to make the U.S. ski team, and I found my calling in big mountains and backcountry skiing. I went up to Alaska in '91 and got second place in the World Extreme Skiing Championships. And I had helicopter experience from when I was a younger man, so I was asked by a helicopter company to start a heli ski business, so I did.
And so that's what you were doing in Alaska?
Exactly. I did other things too. I owned a small gravel pit, and I developed 50 acres of property as well. So I was involved with some heavy equipment in the summertime, doing operations, and then doing helicopter skiing in the wintertime.
And when did you leave Alaska?
I left Alaska in 2019.
So here we go. Weather Watch, he said, has he been jailed or out on bail? He's been held without bond on felony second-degree murder charge. So that's where we're at.
And did you stay in Wyoming?
I did. I was in Wyoming until 2020.
And where did you go then?
Then I came down here to New Mexico.
And why did you come back to New Mexico?
I was looking at finding a place for the summertime and the early fall. I'd spend my winters in Alaska and the rest of the year in New Mexico. I was looking for a piece of land.
And what were you going to do with that land?
I was going to build a house and start doing some hunting guiding. I'm an avid hunter. I lived subsistence in Alaska. I'd hunt a moose every year and a mountain goat every year. I'd put away about 500 pounds of meat every year for my family.
And so you wanted to do that here in New Mexico?
Yeah, I really enjoy hunting. I'm pretty good at it, and there's a good market for it here in New Mexico.
So, Mac, this is Dean Cummings. He's the one accused of murder in New Mexico
looking,
versus Dean Cummings.
In the area of Largo Canyon, which is basically everything from San Ysidro all the way to Farmington. I was looking for property in that area. There's just an incredible amount of wildlife and game in those areas, the Camazon area and the Largo Canyon area.
And how did you first meet Guillermo Arriola?
I was just looking around for different land and exploring some of the region by Camazon Peak, and I ran into 5 horses. I was also looking to get a horse with a piece of property, and I ran into 5 horses that looked really beautiful. They looked really healthy. And at the same time, I ran into the horses. Two guys came by on horseback. One of the ranchers from the Camazon area, him and one of his cowboys. And I asked them about the horses, and they told me, yeah, that there's a chance he would sell one of those horses. And I said, well, how do I find this guy? And he said, he just was riding down the road on his horse. We're surprised you didn't see him when you drove down. And so I just took note of it, and then I left. And as I was driving out, I ran into a gentleman on a horse, and I was pretty sure it was going to be the owner of the horses in that property. And I stopped and talked to him.
And was that Guillermo Arreola?
That was.
Okay, so we're
And
getting
so
more
tell us
information
a little
here.
bit about that first meeting on the road.
So I was in my truck. He was on a horseback. He dismounted off his horse, and we started a conversation at the window of my truck. He went on to tell me more than I was even looking for. I was looking for land, but I didn't think he had land. I just thought he had horses.
Katrina, this is Dean Cummings.
And he told
He's the
me
one
he
who was
actually
accused
didn't
of
have
murder,
horses,
and he got
but
called as the
some
first
horses
witness
weren't
right
on
out of the
his
gate.
property.
So he's giving the
So
story
he
about
had
how
a
he
chunk
met
of land he was
the
gonna sell.
man he
Sell a
eventually
small
shot.
ranch. And I said, I'd be interested in looking at it. So we decided to exchange phone numbers and that we could reconvene at another time so he could show me the property.
So you didn't see the property that day?
No, we just made it so that we would call each other and schedule a time to come look at the property.
Did you make any observations regarding Mr. Arreola's demeanor that day?
I did. He did smell like liquor that first time I met him. And as I was about to drive off, he was having a hard time mounting his horse. He couldn't get up on his horse. His horse was kind of dragging him along, and he was trying to climb up on this big old horse. My observation that he was intoxicated.
Okay. When did you next speak with Mr. Arreola?
A couple days after that, I gave him a phone call, and he was willing to go look at the property as soon as he could, which was just a couple days out with the weekend coming up. So we scheduled a time that I would go out there and meet up with him, and he could show me the property.
And did you end up going out there?
I did.
Tell me about that first day on the ranch.
So I drove out there, and there was 2 gates to go through to get into the ranch. I drove through, and the gates were open, which was nice. And I drove on the property, and it was much nicer than I anticipated. It had like 4 really beautiful areas for horse corrals, and then it had land on the side where you could graze the horses. That was some other landowner, but we had permission. He had permission to let his horses graze in that area. It was really nice. There was a small trailer. It had a water system, so I had water. He ran solar power for electricity, so it was off the grid. And he was really adamant about showing me everything with the water and with the solar panels. He invited that I could come out there and stay there anytime, and that way I would get a handle on how the water system worked and how the electrical system worked with the solar panels.
How did you and Mr. Arreola get along that time?
We got along just fine. We seem to have a lot in common with mountains and deserts and horses and stuff.
And so, did you see Mr. Arreola again?
I did. He invited me to stay there and to use the trailer anytime I wanted. I'd also talked to him about, I let him know that I had a 5th-wheel RV camper, and that we could do one of 2 things. I could purchase the property if he was interested in doing that, or I could just live out there and pay him $300 a month in my 5th wheel. I figured I would walk before I ran on this deal, get a handle on the property, since he was nice enough for me to stay out there and get a feel for how the water system worked and how the power system worked. So I ended up staying at the trailer the following weekend, and I explored the region with my 4-wheeler. I had a side-by-side 4-wheeler. I went around and explored the mountains and checking out wildlife and stuff like that.
And to be clear, Mr. Arreola was aware that you were out there?
Yeah, he was adamant about me staying out there to learn the water system and the electrical system.
Okay. So that weekend, that first weekend when you stayed out there, was he with you?
No, he wasn't. I had the whole place to myself, and I explored the whole region.
And after that weekend, did you speak with Mr. Arreola again?
I did. I spoke to him again, and I told him I was very interested in the land. I had already pulled out my 5th-wheel RV, so I was already set up to start paying $300 a month for the rental of the spot where my camper sat, but I told him I was very interested in purchasing the property.
And I want to back up a little bit here, Mr. Cummings. Can you give us an approximate time frame of when you first met Mr. Ariola on that road that day?
I'm not too good with dates, but I'm pretty sure it was about 3.5 weeks before the incident. The incident was at the 29th of February. So I had met up with him 3 weeks before the incident occurred.
Okay. So you and Mr. Ariola are having conversations about how you can purchase the property or rent the property.
Yes, I actually met him one time in Placitas at the grocery store, and we talked further about it. And he was very motivated to sell it, and I was very motivated to buy it.
And how were you getting along with him during all of these exchanges?
We got along pretty good. We had no problems. We seemed to have a lot in common.
Was there a time when that started to change?
I ended up staying out there one time when he stayed out there, and we did some drinking. We drank a little bit of whiskey, and he went into detail about having problems with his neighbors. He drank more than I did that night, and he seemed to really want to share a lot of his history with his neighbors with me.
Well, and before we get into the details of that, can you kind of explain how it was that the two of you ended up there together?
Yeah, he said he'd come out on a certain weekend that I was there, and I was excited to learn more about the watering system. So he actually walked me through the whole watering system. We went to where the well was drilled, where the containment, he had a secondary containment system that it would fill up. That's about a 500-gallon tank, and then he showed me how to irrigate all the trees. He had planted a lot of trees out there, and he showed me how to water all the trees out there.
So the drinking's the first time we have
a little bit more
something
about the
went wrong.
electrical system with the
Let's see
solar
what
panel.
happened here.
And you mentioned some whiskey.
Yeah, we had some whiskey. We drank some liquor that night after he showed me everything.
Who brought the whiskey?
He did.
Do you recall how much whiskey you had to drink that night?
There was a bottle. I can't remember if it was completely full when we started, but I probably had 5 drinks. And when the bottle was running out, it only had a few more drinks left in it. He seemed to want to finish off that bottle, and he poured a few more drinks than I had personally. He was definitely liquored up.
That's a lot of drinking.
And you mentioned that he started talking to you about problems he had with his neighbors.
Yeah, he started talking
Your
about.
Honor, I'm going to object to hearsay at this point.
So we had a hearsay objection because Dean Cummings is now testifying about what he heard Guillermo Ariola say. So they've objected. We're going to see how that goes. So yeah, Matthew Harris, thanks for being here. Yes, last week, Friday, right at the end of the day, matter of fact, the court it panned up to the eagle type thing, and they were done. And then they came back, and they had this motion for directed verdict, and the judge got rid of the 2 charges, the one for concealing evidence and the other for withholding his name, basically, and failure to identify type situation. I forget what the actual charge wording was. Concealing his identity or something like that. But the judge basically said there's 0 evidence that's been brought out on those and dismissed them. So he still has the murder and included manslaughter charge, but that's all he's facing. So it blew us away. I was not expecting, Matthew, I was not expecting the defendant to get called, witness number 1, to the stand. I thought for sure he would not testify, but that's where we are. TW says 5 drinks would put me to bed. See, that's going to be the defense. Mr. Upper Torso says, I'm not an anti-gun nut, but feeling if there weren't guns involved, this would be a tussle-up between friends. Maybe they would have made up after. Yeah, but out in the desert, everybody has a gun. I mean, they're all hunters. They've got cattle. If they're protecting their livestock or something, they're going to be shooting coyotes. It's really a way of life thing out there. I think it would be rare to find somebody who owns land like that and doesn't have a gun. But we'll see where this goes. See what he's able to testify to about what happened that night.
All right, so Mr. Cummings, you were saying that Mr. Ariola had started to confide in you about some problems he had with his neighbors. Specifically, did he tell you about an incident where he attacked a car with a hammer?
He did. He told me he had scared the heck out of somebody.
Okay. Yeah, he's
By
Hold on, he's answered the question. I think that's the scope of your ruling. His knowledge is what's relevant, not the details.
that objection was really quick.
I don't know if we should be doing this, but in open court, but you just said he could testify to that, to this incident.
As to that incident only.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
So continue. So he's allowed to testify
Mr.
about this
Cummings,
incident.
Did Mr. Ariola tell you about an incident where he attacked a car with a hammer?
He did. He told me he scared the heck out of a guy that had pulled into their driveway, the neighbor's driveway, and he had beat on the top of the car, and the guy was scared to death.
And how did that make you feel when you heard about that?
He shared a few more incidences than that.
But how did it make you feel when you heard about that?
She's trying to limit him to that.
I had a red flag go up immediately. I figured out I didn't want to be on his bad side, and I needed to be careful on how I dealt with him to close the land deal.
Okay. And how did the evening end?
I went and slept in the back room. He showed me where the bunk bed was, and we got a couple blankets out of a Rubbermaid container, and I fell asleep in the back room, and he slept in where the fireplace is, which is basically the living room of this little trailer.
And I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 46.
Miss L's objecting to the way he's wearing his mask. Either up over the nose or take it off. I think he is supposed to have it over his
Is this
nose.
the back bedroom where you...
Yes, it is.
And did you sleep on the lower bunk bed or the upper bunk bed?
I slept on the lower bunk bed, the one to the looker's right.
Are they on now? Mr. Cummings?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he just got corrected. Miss L. The judge just told him to put that up over his nose.
Okay, so now we have the photo up.
And thanks for
Which
that
bed did you
background,
sleep
Matthew.
on?
Yeah, this is
The one
this
to
is cool.
looker's right with the blue mattress that's showing the mattress under the blanket.
He's saying
Can
to
you see
the
that
looker's
other
right.
bed in the back with the boot box on it? Did you ever sleep on that bed?
I didn't.
And we've heard evidence that there was actually a rifle wedged between the mattress and the box springs of that bed. Were you aware that rifle was there?
I never did see it. I didn't know it was in there.
Okay.
That just panned across the decedent, Mr. Ariola, there on the floor there on that picture. We might see some of that. So just warning, these pictures are of the crime scene. It's not super gory, but
Did you
but
see
there is
Mr.
blood.
Ariola again after that evening of drinking out at the ranch?
Yeah, we met up another time to go horseback riding.
Tell me about that.
We met out at the ranch again. We had scheduled a time to meet up, and he was going to give me one of the horses that was on the ranch with the purchase of the property. So I really wanted to know how everything worked, where the saddle was, where all the bridles were, and he was more than happy to show me everything. He really enjoyed being around horses. I could tell right away. So we saddled up the horses and we rode up the dirt road, probably a couple miles up the dirt road and into a small canyon and then rode back. It was kind of a short ride, but the horse was a great horse. I really enjoyed getting to know that horse. It was perfect for me to have a horse out there, and one that was as big, as strong as the one that was out there.
And how did the two of you get along during this horseback ride?
No, we got along just fine.
Did you see Mr. Ariola again after that?
I did, but that was the big day.
Did you ever meet with him at his office in Placitas?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I sure did. We had scheduled a time to meet in Placitas where he had his realtor and he was going to meet me. He said he had an office in Placitas, and then we scheduled a time where I could go meet the realtor and see the contract.
And did you meet up with him?
I did. It was hard to find because I didn't know it was a little trailer that he was in. He was in a camping trailer, and I was looking for an office space. So I showed up on time, but I couldn't find exactly where they were at, and I finally called him up on the cell phone, and he walked me into where
His office was a
where I could
camping
go
trailer?
to this gated area and go into where this little camper was.
It's like an RV
And at
office?
that point in time, during the meeting, did you have a chance to review the contract?
I did. I looked at the contract.
The
It
big
was pretty
day.
lengthy. I read it from front to cover, and the attorney was Guillermo was there, and so was the realtor.
Did the realtor become irritated with you?
She definitely was short with me. She was pushing me to sign the agreement, and I wasn't ready to do so. I needed somebody to look at it. It was some of the language in the contract was beyond my scope of law and realty.
This is always smart.
Did you ask to take that contract with you?
I did. I asked them if I could take the contract to an attorney or to a realtor, and she responded back to me that she can't do that or she could lose her realty license.
So what happened after that
That
meeting?
sounds weird.
That was a pretty big red flag. Guillermo didn't really speak up in the meeting. I could tell that Guillermo was a little bit bugged with his realtor because she wasn't really being very open with the agreement. And I just ended the meeting right then and there. It was a waste of time at that point. I needed to be able to convince Guillermo that I needed an attorney or a realtor to look at the contract. He seemed a little bit bugged with his attorney, with his realtor too.
Dean
So
should have brought an
did
attorney
you
with him.
leave that meeting without signing the contract?
I did. I left without signing the contract.
Were you still interested in buying the property?
Oh yeah, I definitely was.
And did you speak with Mr. Ariola again after that meeting?
Yeah, we had another phone conversation, and he apologized for what had happened. And I asked him if there was another realtor we could work with, or
Amy,
how
this
we
is the
could work
gentleman
with
that's
the
accused of
realtor
murder.
that.
He's sort of explaining the backstory about how he met the property owner and how he ended
Did
up
you
shooting him.
reach an agreement, or was it still open for discussion?
It was a vague conversation. He didn't go very far into meeting up again with a realtor or finding another realtor. So it was open-ended at that point.
Did you return to the property at some point?
I did. I went back to the property to stay out there again.
Were you still hoping to purchase the land?
Absolutely.
Was Mr. Ariola there when you arrived?
No, I got there late one night around 10, 11 o'clock, and nobody was there. So I'd put on a movie and watched a movie inside the trailer.
And what happened that evening?
I fell asleep in front of the TV, and then in the middle of the night I woke up, and I smelled a propane smell in the trailer, which concerned me
Why would that concern you?
because propane is flammable.
Now, you said that Mr. Ariola had spent a lot of time showing you the property and how it worked. How was this trailer heated?
With a wood fireplace.
What else did they use to heat it?
They had a small propane heater in the back bedroom, and he had a couple bottles on the back of the trailer that were propane bottles.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 61.
Just heads up, these pictures are of the crime scene, so you're going to see
Do you
a body
recognize
on the
what's
floor in
depicted
some
in
of these
this photo?
pictures.
I do.
What is that?
It's a propane heater on its side. It looks like it either fell off or somehow tumbled off to the side there.
And where is that propane heater?
That's in the back bedroom.
Is that propane heater supposed to be sitting on the floor like that?
If I recall, it was hanging on the wall. I think there's a hanger just outside of this photograph where it was supposed to be hanging.
Okay.
There's like a little metal rack on the wall where it latches onto. We'll see that
I'm
in other
guessing
photos.
because we got into an altercation that one of us bumped into it.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 75. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photo?
I do. There's some propane bottles.
Where are those propane bottles?
They're just on the outside of the back bedroom.
So
where
Debbie,
the
possibly, but he
altercation
sort of had permission to be there. It sounded like they had a friendship and permission for him to be there. But We'll see how this goes down.
Now, you testified that you woke up in the middle of the night and you smelled propane,
Yeah, I did.
and that concerned you?
It did. Wasn't. The smell was really bad. It woke me up basically, and I got up and I was trying to figure out where it was coming from. I checked the stove, but the stove wasn't turned on. And at that point, I just went to my trailer because it smelled so bad.
If the smell's that bad,
And when did
it's
you
enough to explode.
see Mr. Ariola next?
I slept in. He showed up around, I don't know what time exactly it was, 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and he pulled into the property in his truck.
And where were you when he pulled in?
I was in my fifth wheel trailer. I stepped outside when I saw him pull up.
And what did you do?
I just went to greet him, and we greeted each other just outside the gate where my fifth wheel RV was parked.
Did you notice anything about his demeanor at that point?
It was definitely a little bit different than the other times I had met up with him. He was kind of short with me, and he kind of had a scowl above his eyes. He seemed to be in a bad mood, is what I thought. He just wasn't in a good mood or something.
So after you greeted him, what happened?
He went over to his trailer. I went back into my fifth wheel, and he was moving stuff from his truck to inside the trailer. He had brought a bunch of groceries and was moving stuff into the trailer.
So what did you do at that time?
So I wanted to have a conversation with him about the purchase of the property, and I was thinking things were falling through, but I really wanted to communicate with him to see if we could work a deal. And so I went over to the trailer and went on inside, and he was in the kitchen unloading groceries.
And what happened when you went inside the kitchen?
I started talking to him about the trailer and about getting someone to look at the agreement, and he was kind of standoffish more than I'd ever seen him. He's behaving differently for sure. And we started talking about it, and it started getting kind of heated. So I could tell that our conversation wasn't getting much better at the time. So I wasn't sure what to do, but I was just trying to communicate.
And how long were you talking to him for?
Probably about 10 minutes, 8 minutes to 10 minutes.
And when you were speaking with him, did he appear intoxicated?
He kind of did. I didn't get very close to him. I couldn't smell anything at the time, but he definitely seemed intoxicated a little bit. I wasn't sure if he had been drinking or been smoking some weed or something.
And we've heard testimony in this trial that Mr. Ariola was on cocaine at the time of his death. Were you aware that he used cocaine?
No, he never shared that with me. He never told me that he used cocaine or tried to share it with me when we were drinking.
This is the defendant on the stand right now.
And so
This
you're
is
having
Dean
this
Cummings.
conversation and it starts to get heated. What happened next?
So he gets a pretty bad scowl above his eyes. You could tell he was getting pissed off, and I was getting a little anxious too myself. I just really wanted to get the deal done and get the contract looked at by an attorney. I started calling him out. I was calling him out saying, look, are you trying to scam me on this deal, or what's your problem? I kind of maybe went one step too far. I didn't realize how angry this guy could be or how he could get that way.
When you say that you may have gone one step too far, what do you mean?
I called him a scammer, and that really blew him off the top. That really made him angry.
And after you called him a scammer, what did he do?
I said, are you scamming me? And he runs across the kitchen. He was only 3 or 4 feet away from me at the time. He comes running at me. He has something in his right hand, and he comes at me. He swings at it. I block with my left hand, and he barrels into me with his left hand, kind of like a blocker in a football game. It pushed me against the countertop, and I slid off into the hallway. I was on my hands and feet.
I'm going to stop you there for a minute.
Okay,
slow you down.
that's tough testimony
And I'm
because the
gonna show you what's
pictures
already been
don't show
admitted
anything
evidence as
knocked
State's
off the
Exhibit
countertop.
44.
See that countertop right
Do you
there?
recognize what's depicted in
Everything's
that photo?
still on
I
it.
do.
And what are we looking at?
We're looking at the kitchen with the start of the hallway. You can see the hallway.
So unless he
going off to
testifies
the
that he cleaned that
left
up,
there.
And can you
that differs
tell
from
us
the evidence
where
we've seen.
you were standing when Mr. Ariola attacked you?
I was standing right there. I think that's where my feet were.
He just marked.
My feet were.
And when he knocked into you, when he attacked you, where did you go?
I fell backward. I landed about where the sunglasses are, and then he was all over me. But my rifle was sitting right next to the wall there, right about there. And as he was on top of me, he was trying to swing with the canister or something in his hand. And I reached across with my right hand across my legs and grabbed the rifle. And then I was scooching backward down the hallway, trying to get back up to my feet.
And I'm going to stop you there for a
Okay.
minute. So when he tackles you or attacks you in the kitchen, I think you used the word attacked. When he attacks you and you fall to the floor, were you wearing sunglasses?
I wasn't.
Whose sunglasses are those?
They were on his hat. They were Guillermo's sunglasses.
Okay. Do you know how they got on the floor?
I think when he came over me, swinging above me, they fell off.
He has a very
So he's
believable
swinging at you
nature
with a
to him.
canister?
Yeah, I know there was a canister. At that time, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a knife or what he had.
Did he ever make contact with you?
He never did. I kept blocking him with my left hand.
And so after you're on the floor, what happened next?
I was doing a crab walk kind of thing, trying to get my feet under me. I got back up to my feet, or almost back up to my feet, and he came running down the hallway and hit me again. I fell into the very entrance of a small bathroom. I was kind of in the door jamb with my legs were in the hallway, but my upper body was in the door jamb of the bathroom. He was all over me at this point. He's swinging as hard as you could swing. I'm blocking him as much as I can. I've got the rifle by the barrel, and he's trying to grab the barrel and trying to grab the rifle out of my hand. I knew I couldn't let go of that thing for the life of me. I ended up fighting myself back to my feet. I backed up down the hallway. I was about 4 or 5 feet from him, and he's just in a rage. He just
And
starts.
Let me stop you there.
Okay.
When you are knocked down the second time, you scramble to get back up, you said?
Yeah.
And what do you do then?
I get it back in the hallway, and I get back about 5 feet from him. I'm about at the very end of the hallway at this point. I finally grab the rifle, like you should, with the handle on, with one hand on the handle and another hand on the barrel, which is kind of got a plastic coating around the barrel so it doesn't burn your hand. And I said, "Stop!" And he didn't stop at all. He came charging at me and knocked me into the back bedroom.
When you screamed stop and you have the rifle, what are you doing with the rifle?
I'm trying to protect myself. I'm basically thinking that if I point this at him, he's going to stop coming at me and realize how serious it was. But he didn't. He just came barreling into me. He was coming into me like a football blocker, coming with his left hand, his other hand up in the air with some object in his hand.
So after you yell stop and he barrels into you again, what happens?
I fall back in the back bedroom, and my legs were all the way in the bedroom, kind of by that heater where you had showed that heater before.
Let me pull it up for you. To show you State's Exhibit 61 again. So where were you, does this photo show where you fell?
Yeah, kind of. I would say my legs were where the number 4 is, and my upper body was just outside of this photograph. I was scrambling out from underneath him. He was all over me. He was on top of me, swinging with that thing in his hand, and I was crab walking back again, trying to get my feet back under me. This time, he was all over me, though. He was leaning over me and swinging violently with something in his hand.
I'm going to show you a different photo that might help us a little bit in understanding what you're describing.
I wonder if Matthew could answer
Visual
Ola's question here,
Your Honor.
or the implied question about proportionate self-defense.
Yeah, that shows a lot more for sure. That definitely show where I fell.
Do you recognize what's depicted in this photo?
I do.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of this part of the room?
It definitely shows the entrance of the bedroom.
At this point, we would move for the admission of Defendant's Exhibit R. No objection.
You'll be admitted.
Okay, so we have a new picture. Okay.
So, Mr. Cummings, in this photo, what are we looking at?
We're looking at the entrance, the door entrance to the back bedroom and a propane heater.
And I don't know how we clear the yellow markings that we had previously made.
Put your lower left hand corner on your screen. Not the, over here.
Do I just hit clear here?
The defendant gets to clear it. That's awesome.
Thank you.
He
So
has
this is
the power.
the doorway to the bedroom?
It is.
And what is it in that lower corner? What is this?
That's the propane heater.
What is this metal bar?
It's where you hang the heater on.
Okay, so that's strong evidence to support the fact that there was some sort of tussle there
And so as you're
where it knocked the
falling
heater
into
off.
the bedroom, tell me what's happening.
He's just all over me. He's totally in a rage. I fall backward into the back bedroom. I start scrambling and trying to get out from underneath him as best I could. I had the rifle in one hand. I had it by the handle at this point because I had picked it up and put it in my hands properly when I got out of the bathroom. And I'm scrambling right now trying to get away from him, and he's swinging as fast, as hard as he can with his right hand. And I'm using my left hand, and I'm using my elbow and my palm of my hand with the gun in my hand, pushing off, trying to slide myself back out from underneath him. And I don't know, one of us hit that heater. I don't know if it was me or if it was him.
So he pled not
When
guilty.
when one of you hit the heater, did it come off the wall?
It was too crazy. I didn't really pay attention to that part of it, but it looks like it did.
Fair enough. I'm going to show you again what's been already admitted as State's Exhibit 46.
Okay, so just warning, that's the victim on the grounds here. There may be some blood in some of these pictures.
Mr. Cummings, do you see in
Or the
this
decedent,
photo
I should say.
a green area rug?
I do a throw rug.
The throw rug, yes. Where was that throw rug before this fight started?
It was spread out evenly on the floor, basically where you'd be sitting on that bunk bed with your feet on the carpet. It was laid out on the floor. It wasn't underneath the tote. It was on further this side of the tote, the Rubbermaid container.
How did the rug get all pushed up like that?
I think I was on top of it. I think part of my body was on top of it. And when I was doing the crab walk, trying to get out from underneath him, I think I pushed it up.
So as you're crab walking or pushing back, what is he doing?
He's swinging at my head with that canister. He even glanced me a couple times. It was like he was trying to rub it on me or something. But I had a hold of his jacket, and I was blocking him with my left hand.
And who had the gun?
I did.
And where was the gun?
It was in my right hand, and I was using my right hand to try to crab walk away from him and trying to get my feet underneath me and blocking him with my left hand.
And was Mr. Ariola touching the gun?
He was all over it. He was trying to get it out of my hand. He was pulling on it, and I was hanging on to it for dear life. I didn't want him to get that gun. I knew it would have been the end of me if he got a hold of that gun.
And so you say that you knew it would have been the end of you. What is going through your mind while you're fighting over the gun in this bedroom?
I just couldn't believe he was this crazy that he would attack me like he did, and I was definitely seriously worried about my life at this time. I knew if he got a hold of that gun that it would have been the end of me, or if he would have nailed me in the temple with that canister in his hand. I started thinking about my family and my kids, and I said to myself, "You're not going to be a father much longer if you don't get serious about what's going on here, Dean." I was basically talking to myself, trying to get to the point where I could start pulling a trigger.
And so what happens when you have that thought?
I'm still trying to get up. I think I got up to just about in a squat position, and he's all over me. He's got a hold of the gun. I couldn't get it up, and he's pushing on the ground. I think he pulled the gun against my fingers. Is what happened. Is why the first couple shots went off. Once the shots went off, I got my left hand. I took it away from his right hand.
And I want to stop you, and I want to talk about those first couple shots.
Okay.
We've heard evidence, and we've seen photos of some impact sites with scorch marks.
Yep.
Those 2 impact sites on the floor.
Yeah, I saw those.
Do you know how those happened?
He had a hold of the gun, pushing it down so I couldn't pick it up. and the gun went off. I thought it went off more than 2 times, but it turns out it was just 2 times where it shot the floor. I'm pretty sure the barrel was touching the floor when those 2 shots fired.
And after the gun goes off those 2 times, what happens?
I just say to myself, Dean, you got to get serious about this if you're going to be a father any longer. I grabbed the gun with my left hand. I tried picking it up, and he had his hand. He was fighting over me with his hands all over that gun, trying to yank it out of my arms.
Where's the mace
And I
come
just
in?
started pulling the trigger, and I must have been just a quarter of the way up, not even that, maybe a quarter to a third of the way up, because all the bullets went through the wall at a horizontal plane. I never really did get that gun up.
Okay, so when you pull the trigger, you're saying you're about a third of the way up?
Yeah, I think he was all over me with his right hand. I'd given up on his right hand so I could grab the rifle properly. And I just started pulling the trigger. And I didn't think we shot that many times, but that gun went off a lot of times.
And what happened when the gun goes off?
Once the gun went off, the gun went from being down low to going up higher. And he falls at my feet, just right where I was at, trying to get up on my feet.
Did Mr. Ariola say anything to you during this fight?
At the beginning, he said, "I'm going to kill you." That's the first thing he said to me when I fell down in the hallway from the kitchen.
Did you believe him?
I believed him. He was in a rage.
Wow.
After the gun goes off and Mr. Ariola falls to the floor, what do?
I get up to him. I get up all the way, and I walk outside, and I was choking on something. So I was coughing. I was doing a technique that you do for high mountain mountaineering, where you clear your lungs. You get anything that's in your lungs to come out. And I walked outside through the little mud room. He had a little porch there, and I walked outside, and I was kneeling over, trying to hack that stuff out of my lungs because I could feel that my lungs were kind of seized up a bit.
Did you know why your lungs were seizing up?
I didn't realize that he had anything like mace, but I was coughing, and I looked over there, and my face felt really cold, and it was stinging a bit on my face. So I ended up looking over, and there was a water spigot over there to the back of the trailer. I went over there, started splashing water on me. It didn't seem to help much, so I actually went back inside, and I looked in to see if that guy was still moving or not. He wasn't, and I noticed a canister in his hand, and that's when I was concerned it might have been a chemical of some kind. I went into the kitchen. I got some soap in my hand, in the palm of my hand. I went back outside. I took my shirt off, and I started washing myself. The side of my head, washed my hair, washed the side of my skin, and then I dried myself up with the towel, with the T-shirt, so the T-shirt got all wet, and I was worried the T-shirt had some sort of chemical on it as well.
How long did it take for you to recover from the effects of the spray?
My skin was stinging quite a while. I seemed to be able to clear out my lungs. I just kept coughing and doing that technique that you do for high mountain elevation mountaineering. And I got that out of my lungs, but it kind of burned for a while. At that point, I went over to my trailer and I grabbed a shirt. I took the shirt off, I threw it on the bed of my truck, and then I put a new shirt on. It was still chilly, it was wintertime.
And what did you do with the gun?
I put it on the front step. I took out the clip. I cleared the barrel so there wouldn't be a round in the barrel. I knew the police were going to be coming. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a hazardous situation for them, and that I wanted them to be able to trust me that they were safe by going into that building.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 27.
Shauna, they found a mace canister in the decedent's hand.
Is that where you put your firearm?
That is, I said it right there on the step.
And did you remove the magazine?
I did. I took out the clip and I cleared the magazine out of the barrel.
He's using the wrong terminology.
And you did that, you said, because you wanted it to be a safe scene?
Yeah, I wanted the police officers to be able to see it so they knew where the weapon was, so they could go in and check out the scene. I was just trying to make it as easy as I could for them, and I was definitely kind of worried about what could happen next, so I wanted to make sure they didn't think I was armed.
He should have
Now
said he
let's talk
cleared the
about this
cartridge out of the
firearm for a
barrel.
minute. What type of firearm is this?
It's a 5.56 Sig and Sauer.
And why did you buy it?
I bought it when they were supposedly gonna outlaw ARs. I bought it to as an investment. I bought two of them. I bought a Colt and I bought a Sig and Sauer. I was gonna sell them. In Alaska, you can sell guns on a thing called Alaska List. So I was gonna just try and double my money on these weapons.
It's like Craigslist.
And why did you have it out at this time?
I was going to go Barbary sheep hunting. New Mexico has a Barbary sheep hunt that's year-round over the counter. And there's Barbary sheep out there by the Amazon Peaks and out there by Largo Canyon.
Over the counter
I was
means you
gonna
can
go
just
hunt
buy
and
it
see if I can find one
a
of those,
license when
Barbary
you just go to the sporting goods store.
So
You
why
don't
was
need
the
to apply or
rifle
anything.
out in the first place?
I had put a new scope on it, and when I mounted it, it wasn't quite right. It wasn't level. So when you look through it, you could see that the crosshairs were off angle. So that night I readjusted the scope and made it all level. And that's why I had it there on the table and it's leaned up against the wall.
So it's got a believable story for why he had the gun. And that was important in my mind.
We've seen evidence that there was some electrical tape around the scope.
Uh-huh.
Why was there electrical tape?
I put lens covers on the scope so if it rains, the scope doesn't get wet when you're hunting and or dust. And they just cover it up really good. And it was not the tightest fit. So I got some electrical tape and I stretched out the electrical tape and wrapped it around there. It's really secure stuff. Once you stretch it tight, it's kind of a technique electricians use to put over wiring and stuff like that.
Was the cap to the scope still on when you came outside after the shooting?
I didn't really notice. I was in shock. I wasn't really paying attention to any of that. I was just so worried about getting that stuff off my face and off my hair. I didn't pay attention to that.
Great
So
response
backing
there
up
from
a little
Matthew
bit,
Harris.
Do you know approximately what time of day it was when this attack occurred?
It was around 3 o'clock, maybe 3:30.
And you said that it took you a little bit of time to clear your lungs and the stinging to stop?
Yeah, my lungs were stinging for quite a while, and my skin was stinging for quite a while too. I washed myself really good. I washed my hands, I washed my face, I washed my hair. I put on a clean T-shirt, and it probably lingered on my body for about an hour. I noticed it was still stinging, and my lungs cleared out pretty quickly because I coughed it out. Probably 40 minutes, and then my lungs felt normal again.
And when you started to feel better, what did you do at that point?
I went over to my truck, and I did a couple things. I put the gun back. I put it by the porch, on the front porch there where they could see it. I went to my truck. Right when I got to my truck, I saw a motorcycle going down the road, so I ran over to the edge of the property by the gate, and I was trying to wave this guy down, whoever was on that motorcycle. And obviously he didn't see me. He didn't pull in. He was a good quarter mile away, but I thought that since it's so remote, he would see me, one person flagging their hands back and forth. And then when he didn't come see me, I went back to my truck. I got in my truck and I drove to an area that's about 4 miles away where you can get cell phone service. Once Guillermo showed me one time with his four-wheeler, we drove up there so he could call his father. So I knew where the cell phone service worked from that trip we made.
So to be clear, was your cell phone working at the ranch?
No cell phone works at the ranch.
When you were seeking cell phone service, why?
Because I wanted to call 911.
And as you're driving out there to get cell phone service, what happens?
I'm driving along. I'm looking at my phone to see if I'm getting any bars. I drove all the way up to an area called Amazon Peak. There's like an interest sign there that the BLM put up. It talks about all the volcanoes and how they were created. And as I pulled up, there was a man over there reading the sign. And I pulled up and wanted to converse with him. I wasn't sure if he was friends with Guillermo or who he was. So I started a conversation with him.
And you said you weren't sure if he was friends with Guillermo. Why were you concerned about that?
I was just concerned. I wanted somebody to be a witness, and I wanted to have somebody with me when I went back to the property. I was definitely in shock. I was kind of scared and in shock. My hands were still shaking. I was definitely nervous. I was now kind of concerned about the police showing up with guns. I figured it'd be a good idea to have somebody out there with me.
And so what did you do next?
We talked, and he said he had cell phone service, and he asked me what my phone number was and what my name was. I gave it to him, and then he walked behind the back of my truck and was talking to 911. I thought he was giving him my license plate number, but I'm not sure if he did or not. And then right about the time he was on a conversation on the phone, I had 3 bars pop up on my phone, so I called 911 as well. I wanted to tell them as much as I could. I knew they'd have a hard time finding the place, so I wanted to tell them where it was. I got 911. I called and I let them know what my name was, what my phone number was, and what had occurred, and tried to give them directions to where I was at.
After you spoke with 911, did you call anybody else?
I called my dad
Why did you call your dad?
because I was just nervous and scared. I knew when the police were going to show up, there was going to be guns out, and I didn't want to get shot. I just felt like I needed to have some people there with me because I was so scared and in shock.
So what did you do next to try to ensure your safety?
I took David down to the ranch with me. He followed me on his motorcycle. We took him down to the ranch. I wanted him to be witness of everything and to be there with me. He walked into the building. He took a look at what was going on, and he exited the building. And instead of staying there with me, he jumped on his motorcycle and took off, which was kind of nerve-wracking. I was hoping he would stay there with me. So I
don't
climbed
blame
back
him.
in my truck, and I sat in my truck for a long time. I waited around for the police. It seemed like it took about 2.5 hours before they arrived. It was daylight when the incident occurred. It was daylight when I met with David, and when he went into the trailer to look at the scene. And by the time it must have been around 6:30, 6:50 maybe, I decided I better drive back up to the property. It seemed like 2 hours or more had gone by. So I ended up driving back up to the Chemizon Peak Trail so I could call 911 again or see what was going on. And I jumped in my truck. I drove out of the property. I got maybe 100 yards out of the property, and I saw 3 cop cars parked at the top of this road. It was an entrance road to the property. They were about a quarter of a mile away from the property. They had parked there, and they weren't sure what to do, I think.
So when you started to leave the ranch, did you know they were down there?
I didn't. I thought they'd be up at Camazon, or they just hadn't arrived yet.
Are there any other roads that go away from that ranch, or is that the only
No,
road?
it's a one-way.
Okay. So when you see the officers, what do you do?
When I see the officers, I put my truck in park. I roll down my window to see if they're yelling anything or telling me what to do. And sure enough, they were. And I turned the engine off because my truck's a diesel, so it's hard to hear anybody. And as soon as I put my head out the window, I heard them say, "Get out of the truck, put your hands up, and approach us. Walk toward us with your hands up."
And so did you follow their orders?
I did. I just walked up there with my hands above my head. I had about, I don't know, it was a good 100 yards away from them. So I walked up the road. I knew they were pointing guns at me, so it was definitely nerve-wracking. So I just made sure I kept my hands up no matter what.
And did you try to follow all of their orders?
I did follow their orders, yeah. I could hear them, and I was definitely concerned about them having guns, so I followed their direction perfectly.
How were you feeling when you were walking towards the police?
I was scared. I was still in shock from the incident. My hands were still shaking. I was nerve-wracked. I was devastated. I couldn't believe what had just happened and that I was involved with it.
Do you recall ever being asked by any of the officers what your name was?
I don't think they ever asked my name. I had given my name already to 911, so I figured they had it. I had heard the testimony of that officer. He claims he asked me my name, but the whole time I sat in the back of the truck, he sat over there in front of his vehicle. He never really came over to converse with me. I don't remember him ever asking my name.
So what you're talking about now when you were sitting in the back of a truck, are you talking about your truck or a police officer?
A police car. They had Dodge Ram trucks with sirens and markings, the sheriff's department.
Did you ever give any of the officers the wrong date of birth?
I don't think so. I know my date of birth. That's not possible.
Did you ever attempt to conceal your identity from the police?
I didn't. I'm not sure where that came from.
Did you ever attempt to hide or destroy evidence?
No, not at all. I told them exactly where my shirt was and where my coats were. I let them know exactly why I put them there and where they were.
Your Honor, may I have just a minute?
Yeah, so him, when he says he slid across the corner of the counter, that's a problem because the counter has a whole bunch of, it has like a butane canister and another spray can, and like a roll of tape or something. It's got several items on there that you'd think would have been knocked off if that was the case. And they all were still upright on there. So unless he can explain that adequately under cross, that's the only part in his story that, let's see, yeah.
Now, Mr. Cummings, I want to back up just briefly.
Like
to
Mr. Upper
the
Torso said, that's
rifle
all I
that
can
was
think of.
found wedged between the mattress and the box springs.
Okay.
Was that your rifle?
Not at all. I didn't know that was there either.
That was a .22 rifle.
And the evening where you fell asleep and woke up to the smell of propane, how were you feeling when you woke up?
I felt a little bit dizzy. It was kind of nauseous. I guess I was kind of nauseous in my stomach and a little bit dizzy. It smelled really bad.
And the spray that emitted in the bedroom, well, actually, you know what? Do you know when the spray from that canister came out?
I don't. I didn't know he had a canister until I went back in there to get soap. That's when I saw the canister, and then I got a little more concerned because I didn't know what kind of toxic material could have been in the can. I was definitely thinking it was worse than mace because of my lungs, but I don't know. I was in shock. I was jumping to conclusions a little bit.
Well, you testified that he was swinging with his right hand.
Yeah.
And something was in his hand. Did you know what it was in his hand?
I didn't. I didn't know what it was, if it was a knife or what it was, back of a pistol or something. I never really saw it. He was swinging it so fast, and I was trying to get away the whole time.
Okay. And so the spray hurt your skin and your lungs. Did it affect your eyes at all?
It didn't. When I stepped out of the trailer, I noticed a plane flying over the ranch, and I could see it perfectly, so I was happy to know that my eyes weren't affected.
I wonder if that's all they're going to question him on. I'll turn him over to the state here.
Mr. Cummings, why did you shoot and kill Guillermo Arreola?
I was fighting for my life. He was out of his mind at the time. He had it in for me. You could tell when somebody tells you they're going to kill you and they're pounding at you for over 3 different times where you fall down. Even pushing past when I've had the gun up in my hands, holding it properly, he still advanced on me and tackled me. I knew he was serious. I was fearing for my life the whole time.
That was it. He has to say, I was fearing for my life.
Pass the
That
witness.
says it was self-defense. This is going to be difficult, I think, for the state to get beyond that. Because when he's fearing for his life,
Good
that's when
morning,
he's
ma'am.
using, deadly force in return.
First of all, about your extreme skiing career.
Okay.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
I looked, you had some videos, you had some on YouTube that you made as part of your company, right?
Uh-huh.
And it looked like on those videos that you're almost going straight down.
I've done a lot of big first descents.
That's crazy.
It's my life.
That's
She-
scary, isn't it?
She walked
It's
away
definitely
from
scary.
the
There's
mic.
there's
Sorry
no
about this,
future
guys.
not having fear when you're in the mountains.
What kind of individuals, well, that's a bad question. I'm just trying to find out, would you say that people who do that are like, kind of like adrenaline junkies? Is that?
That's
the
where
kind of
she's
people
getting.
do
No, it's called mountaineering.
What's that?
It's called mountaineering. Mountaineering's the way you climb a mountain and the way
that?
you
Oh,
descend.
Mountaineering.
Mountaineering,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
just asked.
Yeah,
Now-
there's hundreds of people that do what I do. They're sponsored by companies and they go all over the world skiing big mountains and make a living at it.
But so do you actually, so heli-skiing, you're in a helicopter and.
She's trying to get that he's like adrenaline. He likes the rush or
Exactly.
something.
And then you jump out?
I apologize.
No, the helicopter
So hard to
lands,
hear.
and then you step out. And then you ski down the mountain, and then you get picked up again by the helicopter and flies you up for another run. So it's a multiple run day of heli skiing.
Craziness.
They do it in Canada, they do it in Europe, they do it in Alaska. Alaska is the premier spot for helicopter skiing because we have such amazing big mountains at low elevation, so you're not breathing really hard. 'Cause
Thanks
you're
for
at low
being here,
elevation,
Matthew.
But the vertical gain is impressive. It would be like skiing off of Sandia Peak and coming all the way down to Tramway Boulevard.
Right.
And that's one heli ski run.
Wow, okay.
But the ability level, I have advanced intermediates, advanced and expert skiers. There's runs like this that are just perfectly like 20 degrees for 4 miles. You don't have to be an extreme skier to ski
He just
that.
likes
You
to
can come
talk.
up to Alaska and go skiing and have a good time.
But it is dangerous, though.
Yeah, the sport of skiing is dangerous. Yeah, you can hit a tree or you can slide down a slope. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just looking at some of your videos and just marveling at how you just, I mean, to me, it looked like it was straight down. I'm sure it wasn't completely straight, but it was pretty steep.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I didn't have a chance to interview him, so
Hold
I
on,
would
hold on,
ask.
hold on. Approach the bench. Approach the bench.
Okay, so there's an objection. She's like,
Approach the bench.
why is he being asked about his skiing videos on cross-examination when that wasn't anything that was brought up? And she said, I didn't have a chance to interview him, so I'm just trying to cover all the, everything. So I don't know.
We're gonna take a 15-minute recess.
Okay.
And all the courtrooms, I think, are full, so they could just.
All right. Hopefully, during that 15 minutes, someone can talk to the state, the prosecution, and
Hold on. 25.
yeah. Okay. Someone can talk to the prosecution. I'll keep an eye on the camera for you. Wow. Holy cow. Holy cow. Anyway, so she's walking away from the mic all the time, and I wish she wasn't. I can barely tell what's being said, so I can sort of keep you up to speed of what's happening, but I've got it pumped right into my ears with the earphones. I can crank the volume on so you'd be able to hear her better, but then every time he replies, which he's anxious to do to all these questions, it'll be super loud. So you guys tell me if you really want to hear her, or I can sort of just tell you the gist of what's happening. Yeah, she did not interview him. I guess not. The line of questioning annoys you already. Did you hear Dean? I mean, I am blown away. First of all, I was completely wrong. I think this was the best thing the defense could do was put him on the stand. Hang on, they might be back already. Let's see.
Questioning that Ms. Ramos asked or stated she did not have the time or the right to interview the defendant. Well, the court finds the state does not have the right to interview the defendant.
Of course not, Your Honor. He has the right to remain silent. That is prosecutorial misconduct to go and bring up a fundamental constitutional right like that in front of a jury. At this point in time, I'm moving for a mistrial due to prosecutorial misconduct.
Moving for a mistrial.
On his right to remain silent.
Hold on. The other right he has counsel. Not only does he have the right to remain silent, he also has the right to counsel. He has counsel. So there's no right to interview the defendant. Ms. Romo.
Your Honor, that was not, clearly, it was in response to Ms. Moss objecting, and my point was that before she interrupted, I was about to say, and I was in the middle of saying, I would ask for leeway because we didn't have an opportunity to do a pretrial interview with him.
Well, you don't have that right, Ms. Romo.
Well, I know, but that's why I was asking for leeway.
Oh,
That's
my
all.
goodness.
That's all I was asking for.
There's no leeway in that.
Okay, but you could, I understand
I-
that, Judge, and I respect your ruling. But
She's-
for them to jump up and down and her to start laughing in front of the jury and yelling prosecutorial misconduct, that's not what I was doing.
Hold on, Ms.
And this
Romo.
court knows I wouldn't do that.
Hold on, Ms. Romo. She didn't do that in front of the jury. She did it after I sent out the
Well,
jury.
she was laughing.
Anyway, I'm gonna deny the motion for mistrial. Take a break and we will come back in about 10 minutes. Mr. Cummings, you may step down, go to the table, visit with your clients, with your lawyers.
Okay, so this is going nuts. This is crazy. Did you guys follow that? Sorry, I froze chat for some reason. Let's see. Yes, my computer is still live. The keyboard is flickering. Some of the letters are flashing, so there's clearly some water in there from the previous incident. But yeah, defense is mad. Okay, so what just happened right there? If you guys caught that, the defense questioned Dean, and I thought they would never do this because he's got some crazy ideas. They managed to have him up there and talk, and he did a very, very good job. It was very believable. His mannerisms, everything, his explanation, it just came across as genuine. Body language, it was incredible. It was great. It explained the whole situation. It told us why there was a gun in there. It told us, how he had got to know him and how he was on the property and why he was in the house and everything else. And it's a story that's easy to follow and understand for the jury. It's very believable. There was nothing in that was like a stretch of the imagination for, and then this occurred and this is how it happened. Yeah, so that was great. When the prosecution got up to question him, they started asking him these bizarre questions about his heli skiing, which, that's the name of the title. Some of you have said, why is it extreme skier murder if, there was no skiing going on? Well, it's just that this defendant is famous for being, a world-class extreme skier. He had a company up in Alaska that he owned that did heliskiing, where he'd fly people into huge mountaintops, a pristine, snowy, backcountry, and drop them off, and they'd ski down the mountain. They'd pick them up and do that. And he got into that a little bit. And the prosecution was sort of getting at, like, you must be like an adrenaline junkie sort of guy. You like to push it, push the limits. That seemed to be the feel of what the questions they were asking. And they got like 2 or 3 questions in, maybe a few more, and finally the defense says, "Hey, I'm going to object to this line of questioning. It's not relevant, and it wasn't covered in the direct examination type thing. It's like, why are they bringing it up?" And the prosecution says, "Well, we didn't get a chance to interview him, so by doing that." She's basically bringing up the fact that the defendant has not spoken to the prosecutors, which is his right, and is not supposed to be brought up to the jury as like, well, this didn't happen, so it makes him look bad. And immediately, as soon as the jury's out of the room, the defense says, "I'm moved for a mistrial because of that." Because she brought up in front of the jury members that there was no interview with the defendant, which isn't right, and the judge said that over and over. Now, the judge did dismiss the motion for mistrial, but yeah, it was, you saw him backpedaling there. Wow, dang, holy moly. Not boring now. How long is the break? We had about 15 minutes is what they said, so I probably should start my timer. Let's see. Let's set it for 10, right? Let's put it about 11 minutes. There we go. Should I put a timer up and see if, let's see if this one works. Oh, it won't work while my other one's on. There we go. That's roughly what I think it's going to be before we get back. So yeah, this cross might be wild for other reasons. Oh, that's no good, huh? Let's move that timer. Let's put it up here. Bingo. Okay. Adam says, "I'm laughing at this so hard, my face is hot." The prosecutor pointed at the defense attorney and said, "Well, she was laughing at me like a kid. I don't know why it's so funny." Yeah, grounds for appeal. I think this is. I was listening to a couple lawyers who were analyzing this last week, and they're saying, at this point, I would want to get this case into the hands of the jury as soon as possible. Just the state has botched this so badly that just turn it over to them and just get this over with. You've got to realize that Dean has been in jail for the last 2 years, held without bond. There's no bail he can pay to get out. So for 2 years he's been in jail, and now the case they bring has this many holes, has this many problems. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, yeah, they can't bring that up in front of a jury. Mr. Opatorso says, "I have my money on not guilty." Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not guilty. But I'm saying that I don't see the state having proved at all that this was murder, that this was anything other than self-defense. Let's see. If they're relying solely on his words and credibility, then a mistrial could very well be understandable. MB says, "DB opened the door to questioning why we abide by courtroom decorum. Like, you're at a stoplight at 3 a.m. and no one's around, yet we all wait without question. DB questioned the system. He questioned everything. He questioned his own name." But nuts. This is insane. This is crazy. Wow. Yeah, prosecution lost the case. I believe that it was multiple people at play on this. The state messed up badly, says Donna, and I agree. I believe the police made some mistakes. Probably just it's amateur type mistakes. Not that they were deliberate, but I think the lead investigator made some negligence type mistakes in how that he handled the case, especially with investigating further the evidence and processing the evidence. And then the prosecution here, it's like they didn't prepare. I just can't wrap my head around how badly this is going for them. For being a murder trial, but somebody who's been held without bond. They've already had 2 of the 3 charges dismissed. On Friday with the motion of directed verdict. The judge just said, yeah, there's been no evidence to support these charges, so I'm throwing them out. So those charges had to do with him not giving his name, which is like, nobody asked my name. I gave it on the phone, when I called 911, and also the charge of him, I'm not sure if it was with his clothes, taking his shirt off or something that had the chemical on it, which he told them where it was in the back of his truck. So those charges have been dropped, but now we just have the murder and included lesser charge of manslaughter that he's facing. Yeah, they're not supposed to bring it up. The prosecution was not supposed to bring that up in front of the jury. Franco, you missed. This is defense day 1, basically, is what's happening. And the first thing they do is they call the defendant to the stand, which I did not see. I did not see happening at all. I thought he was going to stay silent on this one, but he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. Told the entire story in the most believable way, the most friendly way, the most he just came across as genuine and authentic. Very truthful, very matter of fact in a lot of things. Explained how the fight happened, why things were where they were. The only thing in his story, the only thing that stood out that to me doesn't match with the evidence that the state has presented already is that in the kitchen, on the counter, as you're exiting the kitchen, sort of going into the hallway, there are a lot of items set up on that counter, like there's a little butane canister and another spray can, and there are 3 or 4 items right there, lightweight items that are just balanced there. And he says that he slid across when he got shoved by Guillermo. I forget, is that his name, Guillermo? Yeah, he slid across that counter. And for nothing to be knocked on the floor, that seems strange. Was he charged with first degree? I believe he was charged with second. Let's see. Yeah, felony second degree murder is the charge. Debbie says, recovery addict, I can't get over. Was it the lead investigator who was self-taught? Yes, lead investigator. Watched everything on YouTube, and that's how he became an expert in some of these things. The lead investigator did not test this canister. And you hear Dean testify that there was a canister that he was holding in his hand and swinging it. They didn't test it to see if it was mace. They didn't test it to see if there was dye in the mace, which was an issue the state brought up. They didn't test. The camera's moving here, but we're not coming back yet. They didn't test all these things. Yeah, we might be back. Hang on 1 second. Let's get rid of that and bring me back here.
Before we continue.
Your Honor, in light of the defense counsel's comments, I would ask for a limiting instruction, or not a limiting instruction, but instruction to the judge to remind, from the judge to the jury, to remind that the jury has, that the state has the burden of proof and the defense has no obligation, blah, blah, blah.
Yes, blah, blah, blah.
I'm not sure
words.
which
Blah,
comment
blah, blah.
I made that is offensive to
No,
Ms.
not
Verbo.
a-
However, I
Well,
objected to a ridiculous, inappropriate, unconstitutional question. I'm doing my job. I'm following the law.
I understand that, Your Honor, and that's why I'm trying to protect her client's rights, to ask the judge to remind the jury that the state has always has the burden of proof and the defendant has no obligation. And the comment, it wasn't a comment, I was referring to your motion for a mistrial. That's all I was doing.
You may be seated. A couple of things. Okay. First, with regard to the issue of Ms. Moss saying that there's prosecutorial misconduct, that was done outside the presence of the jury. The jury had already left. Okay. Secondly, if I give a curative instruction, it's also going to include the following, that the defendant has the right to remain silent and the state has no right to interview a defendant for two reasons. One, he has the right to remain silent. Secondly, because he has counsel. If I give an instruction,
Okay, we're having
you
audio
can just
issues
leave
here.
it.
Okay, so he's saying if I give an instruction, that's going to be in it. So if you want me to
I
give
would
an
just leave it
instruction,
at this point.
We'll just leave it.
yeah, the state says never mind,
All
don't
right.
say that.
Bring in the jury, Loretta.
Okay, so everyone's like, yeah, please remind the jury that the state has the burden of proof and they have not done it. Oh man,
I got one, thank you.
the prosecutor, did you see the way she walked back to her chair? It's like she had no heart left in what she was doing. I think she just wants it to end. Oh man. Maybe state thought they had a case in the bag and they didn't prepare as they should. Yeah. Did they think this was going to be an easy out type thing? Gee whiz, kids, corners. Yeah, it is getting a little bit tense. Did she say blah blah blah? Yes, she said blah blah blah. Those were her words. The lead investigator has issues and had some health concerns that included a coma and not remembering what happened. Oh man. So, last poet says you can see that if Dean was falling towards the floor, he may not have come in contact with the things on top of the cabinets. Okay, let's listen again. This might go fast.
Ms. Romo, we may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. Cummings, before the break, let's just move on a little. You know, I think we've heard enough about your career.
Yeah.
Does that require quite a bit of athleticism?
It requires a lot of technique and athleticism.
Would you consider yourself an athlete, a pretty good athlete?
I'm a world-class skier. I've made my living as one of the top skiers in the world.
Okay. You mentioned several times in your direct about your 3 beautiful children. When's the last time you saw your children?
Objection.
Your Honor,
She threw the pen. Did you hear that objection? The emotion in that? Sorry, I'm trying to turn off my air conditioner, which is running today because it's like 85 degrees outside, but inside it is it's like 60. So there we go. Okay, you heard her literally throw her pen and say objection in there. Why is the state saying when's the last time you saw your children? Why are they bringing this up? This is in the presence of the jury. Why would she ask that? Objection indeed. Ginger says, I could never be a lawyer. There's so many things I don't understand. I'd probably say something stupid. LOL. That's me every day. I say stupid things, and you guys get to witness it. These lawyers seem a bit whiny to me. Let's see. Ginger says she also lacks a filter. Or MB says Ginger that she also lacks a filter. I've learned how to filter myself a little bit so I don't say something terrible, but sometimes I won't tell you what happened, but I stepped in it big time with a conversation about a week ago. Just saying something I thought was harmless, and it was not. I'm like, oh man, why did I choose those words? Let's see. Prosecutors are pushing it, according to Ann. Ola says, is Winter here? Just lit the fire and got a hot water bottle. Let's see if that objection was sustained or not. We can tell if she continues asking the same question, then the objection was overruled.
Ready to ask a question now. Your Honor, may we approach?
They just approached, and they went back to the bench, and now they said, may we approach again. if the judge shut down this line of questioning, and I'm wondering what the state, maybe this is the only card the state had to play. He's listening to both sides, as the judge does every time there's a state still shaking their head. They're not happy with what they're hearing. The frustration is definitely on the prosecution side. Oh, she said, afraid to ask a question? Are they, Katrina says, are they impeaching his character? Now we get in Brooks style, right? We're let the objections fly, right? Prosecution in the DB case were so good. This is embarrassing. Yeah, the shoe is on the other foot here. The defense is phenomenal. They are very, very good. And honestly, Dean's paying for them. Dean has the money. He's paying for a high dollar defense team, and they're very good at that. I doubt you would see the same level of I guess I'd say I doubt you'd see the same level of effort on your average defense public defender, who's not able to spend a lot of time on the case or as much as this team has. MB says, I say stuff all the time and apparently offend people, and I'm left wondering how what I said offended anyone. She's like, what was it? What did I say? If Debbie gets mad, she has no filter. Couldn't be a defense attorney or prosecutor. Remind me to have a delay button on if you guys call, you with no filters. Sam Terry saying, enjoying your channel from Costa Rica. Sam, it is wonderful to have you here. I think that's the first comment we've had from Costa Rica, but welcome. Hope you come back. We have a lot of fun pretty much every day. Max says, the blue blonde is not qualified to be in court. Well, I'd say she's legally qualified. Her experience probably isn't the same level as the defense. I really don't think she expected this level of defense that she's facing here. It's sort of like Little League playing NFL type thing. She's out of her league a little. Where did Shane O'Brien go? Haven't seen him in a while. Yes, where is our friend from Ireland? He'll show up. He'll show up. I can reach out to him. I think I have a method of reaching him offline. I can check on him if that's a concern. Let's see. He talked about his kids to make him seem like a good person. So prosecution is going about it all wrong to prove that he's using his kids that way, though. Right. So Donna, there may be something where he and his kids don't get along, where, you know, the way he presented it was like, oh, I'm a father with these beautiful children, a loving father. There might be like hard feelings between family members that refuse to speak to him for a long time, for a lot of reasons. We don't know. So maybe that's what the prosecution was trying to get at. Petra says, what is this case about? First time hearing about it. Well, Petra, what we have is we call it an extreme skier murder case, but really the defendant is an extreme skier. He skis down nearly vertical slopes in rugged mountain terrain, world-class skier, and he has a heli skiing company as well up in Alaska that does that. That's the only part that's about skiing. Everything else is not about skiing. He was looking to buy some land in New Mexico, and he got to know the landowner, started staying on the property a little bit, and they drank one night, and they ended up in a discussion. An argument turned into a fight, and he fired the gun. He says in self-defense. The state says it's murder. So the defendant is on the stand right now. We're going to hear from him.
Conversation that you allegedly had with Mr. Guillermo Ariola about how he struck someone's car with a hammer.
Yeah,
Weren't you laughing during that conversation?
I didn't find it funny.
But you were laughing with him.
No, I was not.
Was he laughing?
He wasn't laughing. He was serious about what he was talking about. He showed us. He showed us.
Thank you. No, you've answered the question. Thank you.
I'm going to object.
Hold
I
on.
would ask that if she asks a question, he be allowed to complete his answer.
You can do it on redirect.
Do you know if Mr. Ariola had a diesel truck?
I'm not sure if it was gas or diesel.
But he didn't surprise you when he came out. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't expect him to show up. He hadn't showed up for a lot of weekends that I had stayed out there.
okay, but he didn't come in to startle you, did he?
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't expect him to show up.
Okay, but he didn't startle you, did he? Yes or no? Did he startle
He
you?
did startle me. I knew I had stuff in the house that I needed to get out of there, so I was startled because I didn't want to have my rifle in the house when he showed up. I didn't mean to do that.
The state allowed him to get that in. He had the rifle in the house so he could attach the scope and fix it.
And this incident about that you supposedly had with him when you first met Mr. Adiola, that he was drunk and falling off his horse,
I never said falling off his horse.
almost falling?
I didn't say that either.
Well, okay, well, that's what I heard.
He was running alongside his horse. His horse was taking him for a little bit of a ride. He just couldn't get back up on the horse because he was intoxicated.
Okay. And that obviously didn't stop you from hanging out with him or trying to buy land from him, correct?
I still wanted the
Correct?
land. I
Yes or
still
no?
wanted the land.
Sir, could you please listen to my question
I did.
and answer yes or no, unless I ask for an explanation, all right? Do you understand?
I understand.
That she's losing ground here, being all pushy.
But you do admit that you and Mr. Adiola got along great, right?
We did. We got along just
You
fine.
drank together, yes?
Yes.
I'm going to object. She's interrupting him.
I-
She asks a
Good.
question, and now she's interrupting me. If she asks a question, she should let him answer it.
And I would ask the court to instruct the witness to answer my question appropriately and not be non-responsive, as I just instructed him.
Hold on, Congress.
He was not non-responsive.
Just answer yes or no, but let him finish the answer, though.
Okay.
Go on, continue.
And Mr. Cummings, to be fair, you will have an opportunity if you need to explain something when your attorney redirects you, okay?
Okay.
All right. But you got along great with him in the beginning, isn't that true?
I
Yes.
had a
Yes or
yes.
no?
We got along just fine.
Okay, thank you. You drank beer together, yes?
No.
You drank whiskey together,
We
yes?
we drank whiskey together.
You ate steaks with him at his house, yes?
Not with him.
Yes, Ashley, this is
You
Dean
never
Cummings.
really stayed in that trailer, did you?
I stayed in the trailer every time I went there. Yes, I did.
Do you recall when you voluntarily talked to a reporter David Williams? Do you remember talking to Mr. Williams?
I do.
Do you remember telling Mr. Williams
It's frustrating, but those are appropriate questions to force him to answer a yes
do you
or
remember
no
telling
question.
Mr. Williams that you never stayed there?
I never told him that.
You didn't? Okay. Your Honor, I would like to play a portion of an interview. It's been redacted to play only that portion.
I'm going to object. I don't think that that was the testimony. He already said that he stayed there a couple nights.
He just,
We've listened to that audio recording, and he did say that he stayed there. So it's not proper impeachment.
It's not, because what she's trying to impeach him, what he didn't say in that recording.
Approach the bench.
Okay, so she's trying to get something on him. So he's been very forthcoming with his answers. If anything, he does not seem to be resisting any type of question. He's freely giving his answers without a lot of thought or premeditation to how he wants to phrase things. So she's going
and
to
do you
try
remember telling that same reporter
to catch him
that
in
you
a
just
lie.
testified that you saw, when you stayed there one night, you smelled propane?
I did smell propane. Yes.
Didn't you also tell the reporter that it was all neuro?
I was dizzy from it a little bit, I think.
But you told the reporter that it was all neuro, correct?
I'm not sure.
Do you want to hear the jail call?
I don't think I need to.
Hold on, counsel, approach the bench.
Okay, so it sounds like he talked to a reporter over a jail phone, which are recorded calls, which the prosecution has access to. And so he said something, and this might be getting into the reason why I thought they wouldn't put him on the stand, where he has some conspiracy theory ideas about gases and nanobots and things that are controlled by 5G and that. So I think that's what she's trying to get in here. Thank you, Abby. Appreciate you getting that. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. Let's see. What state is this in while the masks? Bella, this is in New Mexico, where still by law, everyone in court has to wear a mask. Not all states have that still, but New Mexico in court, at least, that's the law. So that's why they're all wearing it. Ashley, thanks for stopping by. Do catch up later. This is going to be fun. I think it might go quick. I was not expecting Dean to testify in his own defense here, witness number one, but he did a phenomenal job. I think the jury believed him. Me, as a member of the jury here in the Court of Public Opinion, I believed him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I need for you to totally disregard the last question from that was asked by the prosecutor, and that shall not enter in any way in any type of deliberation. Ms. Romo, you may continue.
Okay.
Do you remember having the conversation with the reporter?
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with a reporter.
And do
Counsel,
you
approach the bench again.
Okay, so I didn't hear an objection there, but the judge is talking rather animatedly to the defense. And now the defense, and now the lawyers talking to him on the stand while he's all sworn in already. Okay, I've never seen that. Never seen a lawyer give advice to a witness on the stand.
Were you aware, or were you made aware at some point that conversation was being recorded?
I wasn't aware of it.
Were you made aware of that prior to your testimony here today?
That my conversation was recorded?
Well, just disregard that last question.
She's trying carefully.
But you do
treading
recall the
carefully here.
conversation, correct?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been 2.5 years, but yeah, I do recall it.
Do you remember telling the reporter that you couldn't even recall the night?
No, I don't remember that.
And in the call to the reporter, it sounds like you're
I'd object if it's not in evidence
saying
right
that
now.
Mr. Adiola arrived and this altercation began right away.
I'm not aware of that. I don't think I would have said that.
She's like, wasn't that in there? Is that what it said? They're trying to get this audio recording played.
Do you think if I played a portion of that conversation, it might help refresh your memory?
No, I don't know.
Your Honor, the proper way to refresh his memory is to play this outside of the presence of the jury and then let it see if it refreshes his memory, or if they have a transcript, they can provide the transcript. You can't just broadcast it.
I realize that, Your Honor.
Do you have a transcript of it?
No, I'm doing it the same way they've been doing it to save time.
She's so frustrated.
Okay, let's play outside the presence of the jury, okay? Let's take another, like a...
Jury's been
5-10 minute
excused
break.
again.
All right. We'll come back here.
Another 5 or 10 minute break. So But the break's going to be short because we're going to be back. We're probably going to hear this outside the presence of the jury. I think that it's still going to be aired, so we might be able to hear that. But they're going to pull up this recording, a jail phone call recording of Dean Cummings talking with a reporter. And clearly they think they've caught him in a lie. They think that they can present something and at least tarnish his image a little bit, because so far they have nothing, right? Ashley says, I'm sticking around. I meant I'd missed all of today until 15 minutes ago. Oh, okay, Ashley. Well, as long as you're here now, that's all good.
How long is the entire conversation or that? You know?
Judge is asking how long
we do have a
the recording
transcript.
is.
No, the reason I'm asking is, if you don't play a snippet of it now and then we have to send them again, how long is the entire, we play the whole thing to him better now. Instead of doing it in little pieces, why don't we just play?
Or I can show him the transcript and see if that helps refresh his memory before we play.
What I asked Ms. Romo is whether or not the transcript was complete, and she told me she didn't know. So if the transcript isn't complete, she shouldn't use the transcript.
It was provided by the reporter, Your Honor.
So
That's all I know.
If it's what I've seen, it's a very incomplete. It's not a transcript, it's more just notes.
So just play the audio.
All right, we'll just play the whole audio then.
And Mr. Cummings, pay attention because they're going to be asking questions on it.
Okay.
So defense is okay with playing that audio. So we're going to listen here. I'm going to try to crank the volume up so you can hear if needed. But it should be over the sound system. Mr. Cummings has already testified he didn't know he was being recorded at the time. A sidebar is a discussion up with the judge outside the presence of the jury.
Is the audio on?
It's generally done to set some ground rules on
So this guy, I find this little ranch, and he's willing to do a pretty good deal. And I was looking at like 5 properties. Okay. And so I brought the thing out there, and I left it there for maybe 2 weeks, but I never stayed there except for I stayed there a couple nights. I knew it was bogus, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going to go get my trailer. So I went there, I stayed the night, and in the middle of the night, I was like gassed. The whole place smelled like propane and garlic, and I was all neuro.
And I was all neuro? Is that what he said?
And then the next day, at around 2 o'clock, he showed up, and he pulled up with his truck, and he's like, looking at me like, hey, man, how are you? And I'm like, I couldn't even recall the night. I'm like, I'm fine, boy. And he goes over to his trailer, and I start packing my shit up. I'm like, I'm just getting the fuck out of here. This is street shit. And I went over, I drove my truck over there to get my shit out of the trailer, and he's at the kid in the kitchen, and I'm like, dude, what's up with you?
So they've got different sound bites they're piecing together. I wonder why they don't have a solid recording.
That's the snippet that Ms. Romo says he indicates that the fight started immediately, and that is clearly not what was said in that recording.
It's subject to interpretation, Your Honor.
It's not impeachment.
It is impeachment.
Hold on.
That's their impeachment? Where he said, I didn't stay there, I stayed there a couple nights. That's their impeachment?
Yeah, I fall into the kitchen counter. I fall down into the hallway, and I was there's sheep out there, there's Barbary sheep. So I was thinking about trying to go and hunt some of these Barbary. So a rifle, I just put a scope and adjusted the scope, and it's leaning against the wall next to the table by the kitchen, like the exit of the kitchen. I grab it with my right hand as I'm getting up, and then he hits me again. I fall into the bathroom, and he's fucking screaming.
And this is his house, or are you in the mobile home?
Yeah. I
This is
started
the
pulling
house.
the trigger.
Okay.
I just started pulling the trigger. I don't even know if I shot him. I shot the floor like 5 or 6 times, and all of a sudden he just fell face first. I go over the water fountain, I clean the shit off, but it like evaporated so fast it didn't even matter. Whatever it was it evaporated so much it felt like it was super cold, you know?
Right.
And then I'm just, shit, I'm involved with big time shit here. Holy shit, what do I do, you know? And I didn't have cell service, so I drove 3 miles up the road, and this is crazy. The only person, I get up there and my phone's not getting a signal, and there's this guy named Walt Wood, the guy from Breaking Bad, the doctor dude. And he's like, can I help you? I'm like, and I can see his eyes, he was creepy, and I'm like, maybe, do you have a cell service? He's like, yep, and I'm medically trained.
Yes, this is a jail phone call recording.
Well, could you make a call? Are you willing to come down and be a witness of what happened down here?
He said the guy sounded like Walt Whitman from Breaking Bad.
Was in reference to the excerpt. And my follow-up question was going to be, you made it sound like if this happened right when he got there, you didn't mention that you were in the fifth wheel at first, before all this happened.
And that's not what that recording says. So for her to try to impeach him with that recording, when that recording absolutely doesn't support what the prosecutor is asking.
Then he can answer and she can redirect on it. Judge?
I'll allow that question.
Okay, it seems bizarre.
Are we ready then?
So we're going to bring the jury
Yes,
back
sir.
in, I think.
They're bringing the drink.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the volume down again. Okay, so this is really hard because they're not talking to the microphone, so I'm adjusting. For those of you who are audio people, I'm adjusting 20 decibels of gain back and forth between people talking. So it's a little on the fly, and I apologize if it gets a little loud or a little quiet at times. So whose recording is this? This is a jail recording. So he would have called collect to the reporter to share a story or something. The reporter probably would have paid the cost of the collect call, and he's sharing the story. And the jail reserves the right to record all those conversations. He definitely sounds different in that recording than he did on the stand. Obviously, he's a little bit more crude in his language, so he drops a few less eloquent terms, but constantly talking on jailhouse phones. Do they not know how these are recorded? Yeah, they should. Okay, we're going to listen carefully here. I want to be able to hear what they play for the jury. We've heard all of it, basically. But I'm not sure if they'll play it for the jury, because now it's refreshed his recollection.
So, Mr. Cummings, you testified that you weren't sure what was in Mr. Ariola's hand.
That's correct.
Now, I'm confused. Was he striking you or was he not striking you?
He was trying to.
But he never struck you.
I blocked him.
Oh. Are you confused about whether you were sprayed or not?
I'm not confused.
Okay. And were you sprayed?
Yes,
And you washed your face and hands?
I did.
And when you washed your face and hands, did it make it feel better?
It did not. I had to go get some soap, and the soap made it feel better.
Okay.
He's very consistent, that's for sure.
But you never told anybody you were sprayed with mace, did you?
Yeah, I did. I told Tomlinson.
You told David McCullough you were sprayed with poison.
I don't recall that.
Did you hear him testify?
I did.
You didn't know Mr. McCullough before this incident, did you?
I didn't.
Did you ever have any fights or disagreements with Mr. McCullough?
No, not at all.
You also told the deputies on scene that it was some kind of neurological agent. Do you recall that?
I believe I referred to it as chemical.
Chemical and neurological. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that.
You said you had the AR in the kitchen. Why?
Because I had worked on the scope. I adjusted the scope that night before I went to bed.
And you were going to go shoot the archery sheet?
I was going to go sight it in the next day. After you work on the scope, you got to sight the rifle in.
So it seems weird to have the clip in there.
Shoot with this?
Yeah, I was.
With armor-piercing rounds?
I had other rounds too. I had both kinds.
That's normal.
When you put that rifle up against the porch, there was still a round chamber, was there not?
I don't think there was. I thought I cleared it.
Was there a round already chambered when Mr. Adiola got there?
No, I pulled it back when I got away from him in the bathroom.
Okay, he didn't say that on direct, but that's
So
important.
Mr. Adiola arrived around 2 p.m., right?
About that time, 2:30, 2 o'clock-ish.
And you said the fight ended around 3 or 3:30, is that correct?
Yeah.
So what was happening between 2 and 3 or 3:30?
He was unloading his truck, and I just was at my fifth wheel RV. I was just hanging out at my camper, and then he was in the house doing some stuff.
Why are you hanging out in your fifth wheel? I thought you were staying at the house.
Because I was in my trailer because I was giving him space to have his own place.
Can you think of any reason why Mr. Adiola would just attack you for no reason?
I figured he just had a bad temper.
You've never seen that bad temper before, though, had you?
I heard it. He talked about his neighbors. He definitely told me some stuff about his neighbors where he had, what was definitely using.
There's no question before you, sir.
Okay.
Wait, don't say that. Don't say that. That was a stupid question for her to ask that left that door open. So now
I would like you
they might get further into that on cross
with the court's permission,
or redirect.
and show me how you were holding the gun and what Mr. Adiola was doing. I'll be Mr. Adiola. When you were able to chamber around using this weapon.
Okay.
They want to role play the
Let me see what my attorneys think.
this. This looks bad. This is because this is him holding the gun. The jury gets the image of him with a scary-looking gun.
So, the table or the wall? Okay, grab it just like how you grab. No. Hold on.
Just wait.
You weren't down like that when the argument started, were you? No. I'm talking about the very beginning, when he said he attacked you.
Okay, this is bizarre. We can't hear very well.
Knock you down how? Don't knock me down, but pretend like you're going to hit me how. Okay?
This could really backfire on the prosecution.
Like this, and he's coming at me, he's swinging with his right hand. And I scrambled his leg. Yep.
You swing it?
Yep.
Where's he swinging? Where's he hitting you?
He's trying to hit me in the head. I grab this. I get like this, and I barely get back and hits me again, and I fall down again. And breathe, and
He's very consistent. He's just reacting the story exactly how he told it before.
Down again for the second time, so I'm down.
And all this time, he's coming at you.
Yeah, the whole
He's
time.
coming at you, like
The whole
this.
time I'm blocking him and trying to.
Yeah. And when did you
So then
chamber
he
the
grabs
round?
the gun.
How did you chamber the round?
I didn't do that yet.
Okay.
So he grabs the gun, so I
Where did he grab it?
right there on the barrel.
Right here. Grab the
Yep.
barrel. Yeah?
And I'm scrambling. And he's swinging, he's grabbing with his other hand.
With his other hand.
And he grabs with his hand.
His left hand? Oh. And what's he doing with this hand?
He's swinging that canister.
Okay.
So I'm blocking everything.
Did you feel the canister?
I finally got back to
Hey,
him
excuse me. Did you feel the canister?
a couple times.
Was it heavy?
I don't know. I never picked it up.
But you blocked it with your hand.
I blocked his arm.
Yeah?
I didn't grab his jacket right here and that way I could pull his arm.
Okay. And?
And what?
And then when did you chamber it? How did you chamber
Okay,
it?
so then I got the gun out of his hand. He's out of the bathroom entrance. I I pulled this
He's
back.
still coming at you?
No, he stood back. for a
Oh,
second.
you stood back a second.
I went like this. I said, stop. And he was staring into me, right? And not moving the back hallway into the bedroom.
Officer, hold on. Double check that firearm. Hold on, Mr. Cummings. Double check that firearm. Make sure nothing in there.
Do we just chamber around and point it?
So,
Hold on.
Visual inspection, touch.
What's
Okay.
on the floor?
It's the zip tie now.
Oh, the zip tie. Okay, the safety zip tie. Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay, now they're showing.
To further demonstration with the weapon, just for safety purposes, it seems like it would be more prudent to not have the firearm being pointed around the courtroom.
Yeah.
I
'cause-
agree with that. Do we have a stick or something they could use?
oh my goodness. Oh wow. Yes, check it. Oh my.
What is that?
Let me get that firearm. What am I watching? You guys, this is bizarre. I told you wanted to be here for this. Now we have a blue weapon,
I'm right here.
a fake weapon.
are you?
This is what we should have used from the get-go. They never should have used a real firearm to simulate what happened.
You're in the entrance of the bathroom. The door's right here.
Uh-huh. And where are you standing?
I'm right here, back by the door that goes to the outside, and the door jammed in the back there.
The door
As far as I
goes to
can
the
recall,
outside.
I was standing right before the doorway.
Uh-huh. And he sees you chamber around.
He sees everything.
Okay. So you chamber around and then he keeps coming towards you? With a
Yep,
canister?
and he slams into me, knocks me in the back bedroom. I'm on the ground now in the back bedroom, I'm laying this way. He's coming through the doorway.
All this is
Like
doing
this. I'm
is
driving back and
it's
he's coming
building
down
in the
the
eyes of the
side,
jury
swinging at me
exactly
with
how
the
this could
canister.
happen, exactly how the
I'm like
injuries
this,
could be
gun.
exactly the way they are, the
He's got a hold of
bullet
the gun by the scope
trajectory,
at this point.
everything.
I just go, okay.
Yep, that's right.
And you testified earlier that he was all over it. So where was his hands all over it?
He was all over the gun trying to get it.
Okay, all over it. But, here, the right,
I don't
here.
mean all over it. I mean, he's all over it, giving me 100% aggression towards me.
All right. And then?
I'm down on the ground. He's got a hold of the gun by the scope. I think he pulled the gun against the trigger. Boom, boom, 2 shots went off. I get up to here, and the rest of the shots were fired from about that level.
Well,
And it's hard to recall it all, too.
Sure. Mr. Guillermo was still, Mr. Audio was still coming at
He
you?
was swinging at me like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, like this?
Yep,
When you shooting, and you shooting.
He's over me.
Yeah?
exactly.
Yeah. He's leaning over you, huh?
He was.
Okay. Never on his hands and knees?
Not that I can recall.
But you kept firing.
Hold on. Okay,
Can we
hold
have
on.
him return to
You can
this?
come back to witness stand.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
Oh wow.
When Mr. Audio was shot, what happened to you?
He fell right at my feet.
Sorry.
And then?
And then I walked out of the room, went outside, and coughed out what was in my lungs.
So, according to your testimony,
Stay at the mic, please, lady,
when you're
please.
down, and he's leaning over you trying to get the weapon, that's when those 2 shots went off.
Yep.
And you fell right there.
No, I didn't say he fell right when the shots went off into the floor.
What? I'm sorry.
I did not say he fell on me when the first 2 shots went off.
I didn't say he
Those
fell
shots
out.
went into the floor. They didn't go into him.
That's not what I said. Maybe my question was that.
It was what you said.
You were down. He's trying to get the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
He's leaning over you, correct?
Yep.
And you shoot 2 times.
Exactly. I shot him on the floor. I didn't shoot. I think he pulled it against the trigger. I don't remember pulling the trigger at first.
Okay. And then he fell.
Yep. No, he didn't fall. I got up a little ways in more of a crab walk position, and I started pulling the trigger. That's why all those shots went through the wall.
So you were crab walking backwards. And he's not leaning over you anymore.
I'm trying to get away from him.
But he's not leaning over you anymore.
Oh, yeah, he was.
How could he be leaning over you if you're crab walking backwards?
He was definitely trying to hit me in the head with that canister.
Was he leaning over you? Was he just following you like this while you were crab walking backwards?
He was so aggressive, you couldn't believe it.
Then you didn't answer my question. Is he
But he
following
did.
you?
Yeah, he is following me. He's trying to strike me in the head with his hand, his right hand.
With his hand?
Yep.
And you have an AR and it's gone off twice already.
Yep.
And he's still coming in.
He's still swinging, yes.
And you were able to block all those. You never hit
I had his arm by his coat for a long time, and I was blocking everything he was throwing at me.
which hand?
He was using his right hand. I was blocking him with my left hand.
Okay. So you're crab walking backwards, and he hasn't been shot yet?
He's advancing on me, yes.
What?
He was advancing on me. He was following me on crab walk. There was no room in that. There was no space in that room. That room was tight. I crab walked a little bit backward. I ran out of space, and he was on top of me trying to hit me the whole time.
And so then what happened?
So then the gun went off. I think I got up to a little bit, maybe up to my knees. I started pulling the trigger, and all of a sudden he fell up. I might have been about like this. When he finally fell down, he fell right at my feet.
Well, how was Mr. Ariola standing when you shot him?
I don't recall. I was definitely doing too many things at one time.
You're saying he was coming at you and trying to hit you?
He was leaning over me, trying to hit me in the head, yes. I think the photo depicts it perfectly. It shows where he ended up.
There's no question before you, sir.
Okay.
It's like all the evidence supports my
There's quite a
story.
bit of blood, was there not?
Not at first.
Not at first.
Yeah, when I exited the room, I didn't see any blood on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're going to see a gory picture here, guys. Just heads up.
I'm talking about when he was shot. When he was first shot, you said he fell face down.
That's right.
But how could he fall face down if you were still right in front of him and you didn't crab walking? That's a little...
He landed right at my feet.
This story is holding up
Yes.
to all these questions. I don't see the prosecution gaining any ground.
And he had been shot in the head, in the temple, and the chest,
I couldn't tell at the time. I didn't look.
but there was no blood.
I left the room as quick as he hit the ground. I was
But when
definitely,
he was shot, you were right next to him.
I was right in front of him.
You were right in front of him.
Hmm.
How is it that you didn't get any blood on you?
I don't know.
Did you get blood on you? Your face, your hands?
No, I didn't have any blood on me.
Okay, so we might have some gross pictures coming up. Just a warning here.
Editorial comments by the prosecutor.
I was talking to someone.
Okay, just move on.
It was a pretty bloody scene. Was it not?
When I came back
Hey,
in to
guys.
get soap, I looked in there was blood.
Hopefully they keep zoomed out here.
You didn't get any on you or your hands or your clothes? Nothing. Right?
Not that I know of.
Well, you would have known, wouldn't you?
I didn't, I took my clothes off, so they were on the back of my truck, but I don't think any blood was on me.
Is this the heater that you say was knocked down during the struggle?
I believe so.
That heater was not plugged in, sir, was it?
I don't know. I never used it.
You never used it. It was not plugged in, was it?
I don't know.
How do you explain if it got knocked over in the struggle, how do you explain that, this is the best picture, this is the other one. How do you explain that it landed right there, straight up, instead of falling over?
I don't know. It was.
Judge, that misstates what the evidence shows in the photo. It's on its side. It's not straight up.
I'll allow that question.
Can you rephrase your question, please?
How do you explain? Let me get a different picture.
Lovelar RCP, he said he was going to go sight the gun in after he adjusted the scope.
But let me ask you a different question.
Not a lawyer, just a law fan.
Very narrow, correct?
It was pretty small.
The bunk bed's on one side, the wall, there's a mirror against the wall.
The pictures are down right now, Donna. I'll let you know if there are more.
The clothes were behind the bed.
The clothes were behind the bed. No, not all the clothes, were they? You sure?
Yeah, there's the bed, there's the Rubbermaid, and there's the clothes.
The mirror wasn't, was it?
I don't recall a mirror.
And how do you explain that nothing got knocked over in the kitchen when you fell against the cabinet?
Yeah, all the struggle occurred in the hallway. There's nothing in the hallway. There's no cabinets. There's nothing, no shelves.
Didn't you just testify, sir, that he fell against the cabinet?
I kind of slid off of it. It hit me in the top of my buttocks.
So he just hit the front side of the cabinet. It wasn't on the cabinet. His story is holding up. His explanations are.
I fell backward. It wasn't too hard. I caught myself with my arms.
Which arm? The arm that you were holding the...
I don't know which arms. I don't know which. I didn't have the AR at first. I fell without holding onto the gun.
So if you're an avid hunter, I assume that you know about gun safety.
I sure do.
Are you disputing the testimony of Carlos Herrera that there was a round chamber when you found that weapon?
I could have sworn I cleared it.
Okay.
That's not a big issue. That's basically after the shooting. She's asking, did you take the bullet out of the chamber? He says he did. The officer says he did.
How long do you think the struggle lasted?
Not very long, just like a minute or two.
A minute or two.
It happened very quick.
And you said about 3 or 3:30, you think?
That'd be my guesstimation. I didn't have a watch on.
Sure. But that all happened pretty quickly, right?
Yep.
And then right afterwards, this was someone you had been friendly with, right?
Yeah, as best I could.
Did you go and check to see if he was still alive?
I did. When I came in to get the soap, I checked.
How did you check?
I looked in the room, and there was a big pool of blood. He wasn't moving. His chest wasn't rising. I'm medically trained, so it was obvious he wasn't breathing.
Right after you shot him, you didn't check then to see if he was okay?
I did. I looked in there.
No, right after you shot him.
Oh, not at all. I left the room as quick as I could. I was in shock at the time and was gasping for air. My lungs were full of something not good.
AJ, it might be quick. We might be over with this quickly.
Because you think he sprayed you with poison.
I didn't know what he had.
But that's what you told David McCall.
I don't know. I don't recall that.
Colette Cat has a question. Did the medical examiner ever testify to the trajectory of the wounds?
No.
Yes, we got some of that.
Say he started coming at you, and you fell, and you grabbed that AR.
And it lines up with his story. Let's put it that way.
I fell into the hallway.
Object to the reference to it being an AR. I think it's been clearly established it's actually not an AR.
She don't.
It's not.
She doesn't know it's not an AR.
It's a 6.556. No, it's not.
Weapon.
Whatever. No, that's a big issue.
You had it. Did you fall backwards into the bathroom?
I did. I wasn't in the bathroom. I was just in the doorway of the bathroom.
What is the bathroom directly across from in that home?
Nothing. It's just wall.
What is it directly across from?
The hall, the wall in the hall.
You sure about that?
Yeah,
It's not directly across the front door?
it's not. It's a little off-centered.
If I open that front door, I can look directly into that bathroom, can I not?
It's not directly, but you can see into the bathroom. They're off-centered.
You were within inches of the front door, is that correct?
When I was in the doorway of the bathroom, I wouldn't say inches.
At some point, after you grab the weapon and you fall and you grab the weapon, at that point you're prayer calling back, you were within inches of that front door.
I mean,
Counsel,
object-
appro-
No, I fell into the
approach-
back.
Objection?
Approach the bench, counsel.
Okay, we've got a couple questions here where they have a sidebar. Okay, so if you guys didn't see, if you just got in here, the defendant is on stand right now. That's the first defense witness. That is Dean Cummings. He's the one accused of murder. The prosecution has asked him to role play using the actual murder weapon, how it went with the prosecutor as acting the part of the decedent, the gentleman who passed away. It was bizarre. Halfway through it, they're like, hey, let's check to make sure the gun isn't loaded. Police officer comes, checks to make sure it isn't loaded. They use a little bit more, and then they swap it out for a dummy gun, which is blue, that matches the prosecutor's outfit right now. Everything that Dean Cummings has said so far matches up with the story. I haven't heard him be caught in any lie. They're almost like grasping at straws here. Lots of objections, not during the recounting of the story, because the defense was silent during all that. I think they're confident that he was able to present that exactly how it happened, and it matches all the evidence. And if that's the case, you know, where's the prosecution's case? But let's see. Is that the gun they're playing with in the evidence? Yes, it was. Shouldn't they be wearing gloves? Yes, if you look in Dean's, when we have a close-up of Dean sitting on the stand, that little box over his left shoulder, that is a box of rubber gloves used for handling evidence. You would think that they would wear gloves with that, but they have not been. AJ, this is not as complex as the Daybells. It doesn't have any of the attempts to hide stuff that other cases have. I think it's simpler. I believe it's a very simple case, and I believe it's probably going to be ruled as self-defense. But this gentleman, Dean Cummings, has been held in jail for the last 2+ years without bail. Crazy, but yeah. So the prosecution was calling it an AR rifle, which is a lot of times the AR is used anytime it's an assault rifle. They think AR means assault rifle, but it doesn't. It means Armalite, and it's the actual model is a SIG 5.56. I think was that the model. So it might look similar to an AR for people, but it's a different gun. And that's just a small detail that I think the defense was really good at bringing out, because other details have been appearing. Like they're halfway through the case, there's an extra magazine that just shows up that wasn't on scene, that police can't account for, that the state presented as evidence as this was the magazine, and it wasn't. So just bizarre little things have happened like that. Okay, yeah. Kelly says, usually doesn't play well to role play. Yeah, I don't think it did for the state. I think that was all beneficial for the defense. Abby throws in a plug for the Recovery Addict burner phone hotline, 801-513-1160. You can call and leave a message, or text me if you have something you want to say, or a question you want to ask that you can't ask in chat, or if you're not able to during chat. We'll be able to answer that on the air. I probably should check and see if I've got any messages, though, right? Let's see. As we still wait for the sidebar to finish, I would not be surprised if this case gets thrown out before it goes to the jury. Wow. Yep, phone's clean, so there's plenty of room for messages. Let's hear what they have to say now.
So you were within inches of that door at some point when you were crab crawling backwards, correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the door was shut, and I was more in the back room.
Yes or no, were you within inches of the front door?
I wasn't within inches of the front door, no.
At no time?
It passed by me on my left when I was getting away from him.
Do you guys think she's scored any points at all on this cross?
So Guillermo Ariola was shot around 3 or 3:30, and you met up with Mr. McCullough around 5:30. What were you doing in those 2 hours?
I don't think I spent that much time. Somewhere the time's off. It must have happened a little bit later in the day than I thought. I didn't have a watch on me. I wasn't paying attention to the time.
So what's the first thing you did after you saw Mr. Ariola dead in the bedroom? What's the next thing, the very next thing you did?
I went out to the,
Let me object. This has been asked and answered repeatedly. It's really getting repetitive.
Not in this form. You want me to repeat?
I went out and washed myself up better with soap.
Okay. Well, no, you washed, and then you came back and got the soap, right?
I never looked in on Mr. Ariola until I came back to get soap. I looked into the room and I saw the blood. I saw no breathing from his chest, from his back. And then I went into the kitchen. I got a little bit of soap and filled my palm with soap. I went back outside where the water was and washed myself off more.
And then and how long did that take?
I don't know, not very long.
What did you do right after that?
I went to my truck to change my shirt.
And what else?
My truck was about, I don't know, 100 feet away.
Okay.
Then I went to the edge of the property when I saw a motorcycle and I tried waving down Mr. McCullough. I was waving my hands like this as he rode by.
But you didn't get in your truck. When he didn't respond, what did you do?
I got in my truck and drove that way to try to catch him and to use the phone up where the phone service worked.
Now, I think you were explaining on direct that the reason you didn't tell Mr. McCullough right away, well, you didn't tell Mr. McCullough right away, did you?
I didn't. I talked to him a little bit. I wasn't sure if he was friends with Mr. Ariola or not.
Please listen to my question. If it's a yes or no, answer yes or no. If you need to explain, you do that with your attorney on your direct.
I don't think he's required to only say yes or no.
He
He's
is
allowed
if
to
he's-
answer questions.
Okay.
So you didn't tell Mr. McCullough right away. And you said on direct, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing, you weren't sure if he was friends with Mr. Ariola or not, right?
I was using my phone too at the time.
What do you mean you're using your phone?
I was trying to get service. I was looking for bars on my phone.
While you're talking to Mr. McCullough?
Exactly.
Okay. Once again, but you did not tell him right away that you had shot a man in self-defense and you needed help.
I told him pretty quickly.
After you talked about motorcycles?
I don't recall talking about motorcycles.
After you got back in your truck and you were going to leave and then you had second thoughts and came back? You don't remember that?
I thought I talked to him the first time I arrived.
And you told him that the weapon that you shot the man with, you said the man, was in the back of your truck, under your clothes that you were wearing.
I don't recall that.
And after Mr. McCullough called 911,
No, he called 911 directly. He was behind my truck calling 911. And then I got 3 bars.
Sir, I haven't asked a question yet. Please. After Mr. McCullough called 911, and he was on the phone with 911, you were standing there talking to him. Talking, we can hear it in the background.
I was sitting in my truck. I wasn't standing there.
But would you agree that you were close enough that you could be heard on dispatch?
He was behind my truck. I couldn't see him.
Did you hear yourself on dispatch?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are you talking to?
I didn't hear myself on dispatch. I only heard David McCullough on dispatch.
You said you had 3 bars now. Who are you calling?
I called 911.
At the same time as David McCullough?
Yes. I wasn't sure he was on the phone with 911. He was behind my truck, like 10 feet behind my truck. My truck's really big. It's like 27 feet long.
It's a big truck.
Did you hear Mr. McCullough on that call try to answer a dispatcher's question about whether you still had the weapon or what was happening? And Mr. McCullough, in fact, talked to you to
No.
get information to relay to the dispatcher.
I don't recall what he said.
And you didn't call 911 Even though you say you had cell phone service right there at the same time as David McCullough.
As soon as I got service, I called 911.
You didn't call, even though you just testified that you already had 3 bars, you didn't call 911 until about 13 minutes after you knew Mr. McCullough called 911.
No,
Is that correct?
that's not correct.
Do you have any reason,
I called 911.
any reason to believe that the bad report is wrong? The dispatcher's wrong on that?
I don't know if they got together on the time of the call, but I called 911 while Mr. McCullough was calling 911. I ended up getting hold of BHI, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and he ended up getting hold of Sandoval County Sheriff's Department.
What do you mean got together on the time?
The time I called, as soon as I talked to Mr. McCullough out my window of my truck, I told him what happened. I asked him if he had bars on his phone. He said he did. Can you please call 911 and let them know what happened out here? And about the same time as he walked to the back of my truck, my phone got 3 bars on it. I dialed 911 immediately and told him my name, my phone number, and where I was at.
Well, we'll just move on.
We'll just move on because there's nothing there along that line of questioning.
Why did you call your dad before you called 911?
Because I wanted someone to be out there with me. I was worried about the police arriving with guns. I wanted to have some people with me.
Why would you be concerned if you were acting in self-defense?
Because police with guns isn't exactly the safest thing you could deal with in life.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. She's like, point? Oh, my goodness. Weather Watch, I agree. I don't know what I don't think she scored any points on this cross. Does she have anything else?
Second round.
At this point, if I was on the jury, I'd be like, hey, Judge, can you just pass me the paperwork here? Because we're ready to fill it out now. Okay, so I was completely wrong about putting Dean on the stand. Last week I was thinking there was no way he would testify because of what we'd heard about his
Right.
conspiracy theory ideas. But this has been gold for defense.
Are you testifying that you weren't sure what the defendant had in his hand?
Yeah, that's what I didn't know what he had in his hand.
Did you know that Mr. Arnold carried mace?
Yeah, when we drank that night, he told me he had sprayed his neighbors with mace.
So you knew he carried mace?
I didn't know he carried it. I knew he had used it prior.
Okay, so now they're trying to say that basically if it was just mace, why'd use deadly force?
State's Exhibit.
But he's already said that he feared for his life, that this guy had attacked him even when he had the gun up to try to dissuade him not to, and that he had threatened to kill him, said he would kill him. So I think the threshold for him fearing for his life has been met, according to his account.
What he had in his hand?
If that's what they found, yes.
Watch she spray it in the courtroom. Watch her spray it. Oh my goodness. This would be gold.
Point to tell everyone you encounter to look at the mace in his hand, right?
Don't let her
I
take
wanted
the
to make
mace.
sure I had a witness of that.
Keep her away
You
from the
made sure
room.
of that, right?
I don't know. I just told David McCullough.
You told the deputies also. It's on the, we listened to the.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You wanted to make sure that everybody saw that mace in his hand, that he was hitting you with, and then he sprayed you with it.
I wanted them to know that he had a weapon, that he had something in his hand he was trying to hit me with.
But you never told him that. You never told David McCullough that.
I think I told McCullough that.
No, you did not tell deputies. Well, we'll just
I think I did.
All you told the deputies in McCullough is that you were sprayed. You just testified that your eyes were burning and stinging, you couldn't see.
I never said it.
That's a misstatement of the testimony.
I'm paraphrasing. Could you see? All right.
It's an incorrect paraphrase.
All right. Were your eyes burning?
No,
They weren't.
just the side of my face was burning.
The side of your face was burning. Okay? Because of something he sprayed out of that canister.
That was my guess, yes.
Or did he have anything else in his hand to spray?
I didn't see anything else.
This is bizarre. Is this what you smelled, sir? Just spray it for the jury so they can get an idea of what it feels like. Oh, my goodness.
And when, after 911 was called, first by Mr. McCullough and then by you, Mr. McCullough offered to go, and you wanted him to go witness the body, correct?
I asked him to go, yes.
And you used those words, witness the body.
I can't recall that.
And after you got out there, you made sure that you saw the canister in the hand, correct?
I don't recall that either. I just told him to go take a look.
And then, when it was obvious there was no help available for Mr. Ariola, you were still there with Mr. McCullough, David McCullough, right?
He left.
But you were there at first, right?
Yeah, I was on the property.
Did you go in the house with him?
I wasn't sure about that. McCullough testified that I did, but I don't recall. I thought I stayed outside, but it's hard to remember everything. And mind you, I was devastated and definitely in shock.
You were medically cleared twice that night, were you not?
If that's what you call it, I'm not sure exactly what that means.
She's looking for her case.
But Mr. McCullough said he was going to go out to the point by Cabazon Peak so he could direct the deputies in because the place is hard to find, right?
That's right.
And you said, I'll be right behind you, right?
I'm not sure.
But you didn't go right behind him.
I'm not sure. I know I drove back toward that direction to go meet the police, but that's when I ran into them.
The deputies didn't get there till almost an hour to the ranch, is that right?
Oh, it took more than that. I was there a long time.
And you were just leaving your property when the deputies are arriving on scene.
I'm going to object. That's a misstatement of the testimony.
While they're objecting, I'm going to bring up the results of the poll.
I believe I said the property.
When the police didn't arrive, I started driving out to go back to Cabazon, but I ran into the police about a quarter of a mile away from the property with their lights on. That's when I stopped my truck and turned off the engine so I could hear them.
Did you know any of these deputies before?
No.
So do you know any reason why they would make up or lie about what you did or didn't do or said or didn't say?
I never called anybody a liar.
But you would agree that your testimony is different than what they testified to.
I don't believe they reconstructed the site, the scene. I think I have a little better account of everything since I was the only witness.
All right, that's not what I asked you, sir.
Go ahead and ask me again, please.
I'll move on. I think I've made the point.
Nope, he lost the point. And that's the first time I've really felt him get a little hostile. But
When you talked to the deputies on scene and David McCullough, you never told them that you were screaming for him to stop.
I wasn't screaming. I was waving my arms. He was too far away for voice to work. He He was literally a quarter mile away when he rode by on his motorcycle.
No, okay, I'm sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah, this whole thing's your fault, ma'am.
I think you testified earlier that you were screaming at him to stop as he was coming towards you.
I did yell, "Stop."
Okay, but my question to you is, you never said that, even though you were claiming self-defense, self-defense, self-defense. You admit that you said that to the deputies, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But you never said, I told him to stop, and he never stopped. You didn't say anything like that, did you?
I was trying not to make any statements until I had an attorney.
So the answer is no. When you were telling them other things voluntarily, you never told him that.
Told him what?
That he screamed, or you screamed for him to stop.
I gave very brief statements.
Is that a no?
I don't recall.
Hey, Blue Skunk, I agree. Right in front of the microphone so we can hear her. The pacing's driving me nuts. She hasn't scored a single point that I know of.
So after Mr. McCullough left, you didn't follow him right away. What did you do?
I sat in my truck.
Why didn't you follow Mr. McCullough when you said, I'll be right behind you?
I don't recall that.
And isn't that when you took the rifle out of the back of your truck and put it, propped it up against the porch during that time?
I don't recall when I did the rifle. Mind you, I was definitely in shock. I don't recall everything that happened. I definitely had more concerns about the police officers arriving with rifles and guns. I was definitely concerned about that.
Well, in fact, and that's one of the conversations, three-way conversations that Mr. McCullough had with dispatch while you were there. They're saying, don't touch the weapon, right?
I was where?
You were standing right next to him, or sitting in your truck right next to him. You were close enough that you could have a conversation.
When did we have a conversation?
When David McCullough was on the phone with dispatch.
He was behind my truck. We weren't in communication at that point.
You were having a conversation?
I had a conversation before he dialed 911.
So that voice where you're talking to dispatch and then talking to you, that's not you?
I called the Bureau of Indian Affairs. My phone rang to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. His phone rang through to Sandoval County.
So are you going to answer my question, sir?
Rephrase it, please. Maybe I'm misunderstanding you.
Mr. McCullough was on the phone.
It was on the phone.
911. Listened to the 4 times because the call got dropped 3 times. At one point, the dispatch is asking where the gun is. And Mr. McCullough is getting information from you at the same time he's talking to dispatch. Do you not recall hearing your own voice?
He wasn't talking to me. He was behind my truck looking at my license plate when he was calling 911. And then I got on the phone. I couldn't have had a conversation because I was busy on the phone talking to 911.
13 minutes later.
I don't know. I think it was right away.
I think you could put the
You
Grand
never
Canyon
told
between those two.
anyone that you encountered that day that you were hit by a can of mace, or that he was attempting to hit you with.
He had glancing blows for sure. I felt something.
Sir,
What?
please listen to my question.
Okay.
You never told anyone that you encountered, not David McCullough, not the deputies on scene, not the reporter, that you were hit with he was trying to strike you with a can of mace. You never said that, did you?
I never said it when.
When you talked to David McCullough, when you talked to the deputies, when you talked to David Williams?
I can't recall.
You never told anyone about one of you hitting that heater.
I don't recall.
The person who died had cocaine in his system.
You never told anyone that your skin was stinging.
I did. I told the police officers.
Actually, that's a possibility. The state's doing such a bad job, he might get away with this if he was guilty.
You put that in Mr. Ireland's.
No, I did not.
He sprayed you with it. You shot him and he fell down. Is that right?
Yeah, he fell right at my feet.
Then how would he have the can of mace that he just sprayed at you pointing at himself when he fell? When he was shot?
I'm going to object to this question. I think that that is a question that should have been posited to the medical investigator, the forensic pathologist, and not to a lay witness who has no experience with forensics.
So she just accused him
you don't know.
of planting the mace.
Please repeat your question.
I objected to that question.
You said it was already.
So she accused him of planting the mace in his hand. And she said because the mace was facing the wrong direction. But he never said when it sprayed. And he's saying he was being attacked with that hand as well. So the fact that it was pointing a different direction, that doesn't bother me. And that actually might even go to the argument that he didn't have anything in his eyes. It was just on the side of his face. He might have sprayed
Other
it sideways.
Calling 911 and putting the rifle weapon up against the porch. Did you do anything else to document that it was self-defense?
Your Honor, may we approach?
He does not need to prove self-defense. She has to prove that it wasn't self-defense. This is bizarre. The line of questioning that she's setting up is basically to put the idea in the jurors' heads that he has to prove it's self-defense. That's not the case. Abby, what they didn't do with the evidence is astounding. They didn't test the clothes for mace. They didn't test anything about the mace container. Unbelievable. Yes, and his story is holding up on cross. He could sit up there for hours more and not break.
Would it be safe to say, sir, that your memory of what happened that day was clear then or now?
I don't know. It's been 2.5 years, so I've been trying to play this back in my head every day since it happened. I would say I'd have a bigger picture of it now after working with my attorneys and knowing more about the canister and everything else.
Like the DB reference there, Blue Skunk. Did you hear a horn honking while you were dialing 911?
That's a restroom. It looks like a door.
Counsel, can we just have an identification?
The door into the mudroom.
Is that the bathroom, sir?
I said that, yes.
And that's the front door? I'm sorry, that's the front door?
That's the door into the mudroom.
Which is the door that leads to the outside, correct?
There's another door.
And then it leads to the outside,
Yeah, you go through the main door, and then you go through a screen door to get outside.
About 3 feet?
3 feet. No, it's about 6 to 8 feet.
This is their.
It's a pretty good sized little
That he should
porch.
have retreated to safety or left the house instead of retreated to the bedroom.
That bedroom, if I told you it was 10 feet by 8 feet, would that be about right? The bedroom where-
Yeah, probably so. Probably 12 by 8.
And you were struggling there.
Excuse me?
You guys were both struggling for the bedroom?
Yeah, exactly.
This is definitely like a Darrell Brooks line of questioning. It's like, where are you going with this? Yeah, Bella, you nailed it. Totally DB. Churchy, the longer she keeps him up there, the worse the state's case is getting. The investigator was in a coma. It's like a bad movie. 100%, Ola. And she passed. She's done. She got nothing. I would make another motion for a directed verdict.
I just have a few questions for you, Mr. Cummings.
Okay.
On cross-examination, Ms. Romo asked you several times if you were startled by Mr. Ariola's arrival at the property that day.
Yeah, I remember her asking that.
Yeah. And you said that you didn't mean to do that. You didn't mean to have the rifle in the house when he showed up.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't expecting him.
So what do you mean, though? Why were you concerned about the rifle being in the house with him?
It just wasn't appropriate. I didn't think I should have it in there when someone else showed up. Kind of hunter safety. It should have been put away, but I didn't expect him to show up so quickly.
Okay, so this is just a gun safety concern.
Yes.
And Ms. Romo had you get down on the ground and basically show how you were crawling and retreating away from Mr. Ariola. Do you remember that
I do.
demonstration? And Ms. Romo was standing over you and swinging her hand at you.
Yep.
How many times did you go down on the ground because of Mr. Ariola shoving you?
3 times.
And after the first time he shoved you to the ground, did you shoot him?
Repeat that, please?
After the first time he attacked you and shoved you to the ground, did you shoot him?
No, not at all.
After the second time that he attacked you and shoved you to the ground, did you shoot him?
No.
After the third time that he shoved you and tackled you to the ground, did you shoot him then?
I did.
And was it an immediate thing, or did you still retreat and fight?
I was still retreating and fighting, trying to block him.
And when you were retreating in that back bedroom away from Mr. Ariola, you said he still had that canister and he was still swinging his right hand?
He did. He had something in his hand.
And what was he doing with his left hand?
Grabbing the rifle.
And when you said that, and you were demonstrating how he was grabbing it, he was grabbing at the scope?
Yeah, the top of it.
Okay, is that when the scope cap was ripped off?
That must have been when it came off.
Okay. And after the scope cap comes off, you are still trying to retreat away from him, is that correct?
I'm out of room at this point, so I'm fighting to get to my feet.
Okay. And what is he doing?
He's swinging with his right hand, trying to hit me in the side of the head.
And what's he doing with his left hand?
He's trying to pull the gun out of my hand.
This is the most open and shut self-defense case I've ever heard. That there's no evidence that I've heard that
Just a clarification.
is otherwise.
Did you call 911 first or your father first?
I think I called 911 first.
Okay.
The prosecution objects
And when you
to their own line
spoke
of
to Mr.
cross.
McCullough that day, Did you give him a full play-by-play description of everything that had happened?
I didn't. I didn't feel it was appropriate.
What did you think was appropriate to tell him?
I told him that some guy attacked me and that I shot him,
And why did you tell him that?
so he would know what happened, so he could help me and be a witness to it.
And you wanted him to call 911, right?
I sure did.
No further questions.
Okay. Wow. You've got a defendant who testified in his own defense, stood up under the scrutiny of cross,
Let's
and
take
not
our
a
lunch break
single
now,
point
and,
was
be
lost.
back about 10 after 1. We'll start at 1:15. All right.
There's nothing. I don't know how they can. I don't know how they can go on. See, they said they're going to be back at 1:15. Let's see here. Okay. What time is it now? So we have an hour and a half. Is that what they give us? Somebody do the math. What time is it in New Mexico right now? Let's ask Siri. What time is it in New Mexico?
It's 11:49 a.m. in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
All right, so we do have an hour and a half. I'm going to put a timer on my little clock here just to get an idea. It'll be about, give us about 85 minutes here. And start that. Okay. What do you guys think? Oh my goodness. Let's hear. Let's see. If the prosecution doesn't have anything other than this, I must acquit. Seriously, I think they caught the state off guard. Do they know in advance who the defense will call? Unprepared. They would have had a list of possible defendants. You know, people who were subpoenaed to testify. Defense finished strong. Self-defense. Yep. This is their first witness. I mean, they might have expert witnesses. They might have a bunch of other stuff coming. I don't know. I mean, if it were me and I were paying top dollar for my lawyer, I'd probably want them to provide the full service and not just quit right now. I think they could. I think they quit. I feel confident that that the jury would find this as a self-defense and not find him guilty of either manslaughter or murder. But I think, yeah, I think that they're going to go through and just destroy the state. I mean, people will lose their jobs over this. And it's sad that, like WeatherWatch says, this guy's been in jail for 2 years without bond. And this is the case the state brings to the table, insulting to so many entirely. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Okay, so Debbie, somebody asked this question. If this were on the reservation, wouldn't it be an FBI case? Yeah, you would have had Indian Affairs, police, and stuff involved. I don't know if it was on the reservation or just close to it. A lot of times when you're dealing with cell phones in jurisdictions where boundaries overlap or abut each other, 911 can get routed to the wrong place. I've lived in a place that had multiple 911 centers. Some were city, some were county, and it was common to have your cell phone 911 call routed to the wrong place, and you had to get transferred, which is really frustrating to someone who's in medical duress. Saying, hang on, please hold, sort of thing. That's not what you want to hear when you call 911. Shauna, thanks for being here. Do come back. Sandwich time? I think it should be. Sandwich time. Let's take a break. I barely had a little break. My laptop is still holding up. I don't think any of the letters are flashing right now, but I'm not sure if you can hear. I've got a fan running sort of pointed at me, which I am freezing. Okay, it is so stinking cold in here. I'm freezing, but I need the fan to blow on my computer and just dry this thing out as best I can. I'd hate to lose this thing and have to get another one. Well, the G is a little bit dim. Yeah, there's still some water in there. Anne needs some food. That was like nothing I've ever seen. Yeah, I think Cummings is going to be a free man, less poet. I think you're absolutely right. Didn't they know they needed to prove he was guilty? Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to say, well, you haven't proved it was self-defense. And that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Prosecution is supposed to be prepared for the defendant taking the stand. You'd think they would have something. They would have something to go to other than just, pulling a Darrell Brooks and having him repeat his testimony. And why would you have him act out the actual event, using the real gun? That was bizarre, but act it out so that it matches up. all the evidence the jury's seen already. If he says, this is my story, this is what happened, and the state presents no evidence that counters that, how can they do anything but believe him? Oh, man. I told you guys. I told you, buckle up. This is going to be a wild ride, and it is unbelievable. Yep, get some wheat bags, heat them up in the microwave. I'll figure something out here. I'm typing here. It feels like there's water in the keyboard. That's what it feels like. Oh, man. Let's see. Katrina says, I got to do the mad scramble. Clients showing up all willy-nilly. Laters. Thanks for being here, Katrina. Ashley, going to have a nap in the break. Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and power this off because I know you guys feel compelled to be here every time I'm on, which is wonderful. I'm glad you're here. Brent, Pure Life 2, great channel. Wish I could have discovered it sooner. Well, I'm glad you discovered it when you did, Brent. Welcome. Welcome, as Abby says, welcome to the family. We're a great bunch. Tell me what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up for right now. We're going to go make our sandwiches. We're going to have just a little bit of a break that way. I show 80 minutes on the board here. Let me see if I can show this. There we go. That's what I've got. I'll leave this counter going. That just gives us a rough idea. I think we'll have a few minutes beyond that when we come back. But I want to be back just in case there's some pre-jury motions like directed verdict again. Yeah. But Churchy's going to catch up on another case. Hey, watch it for us and let us know. Get me up to speed on that one when we come back. So anyway, you guys, thank you for being here. This has been a lot of fun. We'll be back in about an hour and a half, a little less than that. And hopefully we'll get the wrap up on this. They do have 3 days. Defense has 3 days on the calendar to have all their witnesses testify. So they might run the full list. They might do everything they'd prepared, even though the state has failed on their side. But we'll see. Okay, sandwich time. Thank you guys for being here very much, guys. Hug everybody you love. Be safe. Hopefully all of you can come back and bring a friend when you get back. We'll have a good time here this afternoon. So thank you guys. We'll see you later.